Do, 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 do.
Can't stop this feeling
Do, do, do.
deep inside of me.
Ba-da, 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 ba.
Girl, you just don't realize how you embarrass me.
Of course I
Ba,
do.
ba, da, ba.
So keep going.
Keep going, right?
Don't
I
tease
think I've horrified him enough with my singing.
Don't tease them.
Ah,
Bum,
hooked on a feeling. Oh, a feeling that you're in love with Pet Orc. All right, everybody, welcome to the first ever Ghost in the Podcast video stream right here on twitch.tv/Rivalcast Media. If you are listening on the stream, the usual stream, you are not hearing me. That is a mistake. Somebody let them know in IRC that we are here. This is where the action is happening in our first ever video stream. I am Baron Von Gosu. She's the Baroness, and you are listening to the Ghost in the Podcast on Twitch TV. Yeah! That is what you guys miss every single week. The yelling, the screaming, the excitement that we get going right here. And of course, I have to do this the old-fashioned way by rocking the sunglasses because nothing makes you look more like a badass than sunglasses, or so I've read in the little handy-dandy book calling The Video Streamer's Guide to Being Awesome. That's not an actual book, but my God, would that be an awesome title if it was. So welcome. What are you doing?
What do you think I'm doing?
I'm hoping that it's something that I'm just imagining that this is happening and not true. Wow. You should show them what you're doing.
I'm finishing
This is horrifying.
the final touches on Varyar's Christmas present, and I gotta get a little bit closer to the camera so you guys can see this.
Here, let me move.
Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. My little Varyar is now a thing.
My little
Do 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 do.
Let's hope his little cutie stamp that goes on his ass is a giant bottle of booze, because he's going to need one after seeing that thing.
Actually, it is.
Is it? Oh, yeah, right there. Scoreboard. I am absolutely frightening. You see, folks, this is what I live with. You all think that I'm the bad person here in this relationship. I have to deal with somebody who makes My Little Pony action figures of not only the Rivalcast Media, the station boss, but of all the other people that she's going to be doing them for as well. She's making a collector's set. You know what? I bet they'll be popular enough. People are going to request that we actually sell them.
probably are.
I bet they're going to request
I'm
that.
pretty sure that we're going to have some licensing issues with that.
Can you sell your RCM action figures? Well, of course. Here you
We're
go.
going to put that sucker on eBay and see how much we can get for it.
So, listeners, you might be seeing this again. All right, let's lose the sunglasses. I know, and I've got that little Ray Charles badass wannabe look going on right here. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that are new, which is the whole idea of being on Twitch TV, is to go ahead and discover new faces and new people and go ahead and bring you into the Rivalcast Media family here.
Hello, new plebeians.
Yes, hello, new plebeians indeed. You are listening to the Ghost in the Podcast. We are a horror-themed show that is mostly on a video gaming network where we talk about all things paranormal, ghosts, and yada yada in life and popular media with beer-swilling, judgmental angst. Yes, that's right, everybody. I am drinking live on the air because another way that we do things around here.
Well, at least you're drinking that. I have.
It's
more of that.
good. It's good.
It's the
There's a
summer
12-pack
beer.
still.
I know. It's a summer beer.
Yes, it's a
I was
summer
very
bill,
protective
summer
of
beer.
that for a long time until I discovered Hell's Yeah.
But you know what? Summertime is a time of change. It's a time of new life. We're doing something different. We're broadcasting our horizons here by going to the video stream. You know, it's fitting. It's fitting. And then we'll do the Christmas sale as we get closer to Christmas. I still have plenty of that left. But tonight I am drinking Leinenkugel's Canoe Paddler. Leinenkugels. That looks like an L. That does not look like a K.
That is definitely a K.
How is that a K? That's a P with an I. Okay, look. I can finally do this. Okay, you can't really see too well.
tell. Yeah.
You can't see too well.
There's too
Anyway,
much of a glare.
trust me, that's an L, not a freaking K.
That is
The
a
reason
K.
you're seeing a bit of a glare is
My
because
God.
this web camera that we're using has night vision on it.
Yeah.
We used it for our Orbfest ghost hunts. We do the live broadcasts of our paranormal investigations as well. And unfortunately, this is the only web camera I have right now, so this is going to have to do. So there's going to be a little bit of a green tint to everything. That's okay. You're just going to have to suffer through it. We don't really have a minty fresh flavor where it's just the camera. So anyway, like I was saying before I was interrupted by the mispronunciation of this beer, we have a drinking game that we play here on the Rivalcast Media, well, I'm used to saying Rivalcast Media website, but on the Ghost in the Podcast show. And basically how it works is if you're listening live and you're joining us in the chat room, which you can join us of two ways. You can join us in the IRC chat room. That's irc.quakenet.org, channel Rivalcast. You can also go to Rivalcast Media's website, click on the web chat link, and that'll bring you in as well. Or you can go ahead and interact with us here on the Twitch channel, because the great, brilliant minds behind RCM, the ones who created it all, went ahead and created a program that inputs and takes everything that happens in IRC, puts it in the Twitch chat room, and vice versa. So I really have to tip my hat to Lead Hackster, because that's his brilliant baby, and Edge and Bio for helping out as well, because they've done a fantastic job pretty much creating everything that we've been able to do here as far as the logistics go. So that is kind of one of the main things that we do here. You get us off topic for 7 seconds, we have to take a drink, and you, listener, you get a point. Now, the points will do one of two things, or possibly two of two things. It really depends on you. First and foremost, every episode, you have a chance to go ahead and earn a guest spot in my Let's Plays called Baron Busts, and it takes place every Thursday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern, where I play a horror game, and you guys have the ability to go ahead and co-host it. Not play the game, obviously, but go ahead and add your own commentary on our TeamSpeak 3 server, which is provided by our excellent sponsor, Trinity Games, which can handle all of your TeamSpeak 3 needs, as well as Ventrilo servers, Mumble servers, pretty much any way to help you go ahead and interact with your gaming pals, go ahead and have your ongoing commentary. So you guys have a chance to join us in there if you have the most points at the end of this episode. But that's not all. You also are playing for the ability to go ahead and win free shit courtesy of us. Free shit like t-shirts or mugs or whatever we feel like going ahead and creating and giving you the option to choose. Or a My Little Pony action figure of yourself. Apparently we can do that as well. Copyright pending. But anyway, so what we do is at the end of every single season, we go ahead and tally up all the points, and whoever's got the most at the end goes ahead and wins free stuff. That is why you want to be here every single week, not just for a chance to mock me live on a Baron Busts, but to try to win some free cool things. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want a My Little Pony action figure of themselves?
Or Varyar.
Or Varyar.
Just saying.
So there you go. Or you can win a t-shirt, a Ghost in the Podcast t-shirt, or a mug, whatever the case may be. And since we are now officially starting on Twitch TV, I am declaring an official end to the previous season. So hopefully by next week, we will have a final tally of who of the main listeners that have been coming back week after week is going to go ahead and win a chance for a t-shirt or a mug or whatever we feel like making. We did t-shirts last time. Should we do that again, or should we give them a choice?
I have stuff for all sorts of things, so I think I could do pretty much whatever.
Okay.
That means I have to finish the official, not copyright infringing logo. So I can
that's why we have our own logo.
They have kind of a little bit of everything, yeah.
All right, so we will.
The main logo. That's right. That is finished.
Exactly. We created that ourselves.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Or rather, farmed it out to somebody to create it. And he did a fantastic job with it.
Yes.
So you have a chance to win some free stuff. So hopefully we will have everything tallied by the end of next week. So we'll have a new winner. The winner of Season 1's tournament was Manly Stuff, who won a free t-shirt, put pictures of himself all over the tweeter. What I like calling it tweeter rather than Twitter. So, therefore, you have some chance to win some free stuff.
Really?
All right.
You felt the need to take a moment to explain that?
I did, damn it. I have to. I have to explain everything.
New season, new explanations for everything.
There you go. And we might have new listeners, so you never know. They're not used to my shenanigans yet.
That's true.
They're not used to the beer swilling or the judgmentalism or the, kicking things or punching babies or anything like that.
I'm already seeing new faces in IRC. Ethan, welcome. And he says, yay, EU-friendly time slot. Yes, we try to take that into consideration around here.
Yes, we do know that we have an international audience here, so we try to take into account everybody's needs as best we can, and our own, which are probably more important because after a day like today...
We're America.
Well, that, and you know what? I think people that are used to watching the show and newbies who haven't been around yet are going to learn this. People seem to really like my rants and my raves and my being in a craptastic mood and how that's fueled by, alcoholism. And I also have to know that I'm a Browns fan. We air this show from Cleveland, Ohio.
There we go.
And for those of you that follow the NFL, know that the Browns did not have a very good day. So I'm probably 3 or 4 into these already. So this is going to be an entertaining night. I am just waiting to rant about something. And we have got some excellent topics for me to rant about. You'll find those that are actually posted up on here, which now we don't have to go through and go everything at the start of the show. We can just say, oh, look, it's right there. It's posted for you. But then again, we are going to be doing a download podcast version, so I probably should explain that.
You still have to read off what they are.
All right.
That's the pleasures of being the show host.
Because some people can't be bothered to get off their butts and come here for the live show. I'm just kidding, download listeners. I love you too. Here are the topics we're going to be talking about this evening. First and foremost, Sony Pictures gets hacked. And as a result, there are many different stories that are filtering down, some of which actually apply to this show. For instance, there's been some information about Ghostbusters 3. Yes, we're all tired about talking about Ghostbusters 3. Unfortunately, this one's kind of a doozy, and I think this is going to speculate or create a pretty interesting debate between Baroness and I. There's also a bunch of Spider-Man news that got leaked out, and some of them are actually pretty surprising. There's new information about Godzilla. He might have a movie coming out sooner than 2018, I think was when they were predicting the next American one. So there's going to be some news here about whether or not he's coming back sooner rather than later.
We should interview him.
We should interview Godzilla. As he's coming off the press circuit, we should do that. We'll have to work on that. You go get Godzilla. God, I don't know if you can hear this, but she's cackling as she's running into the next room. We're also going to talk about the Scream TV series. There's been some updates on that. New DLC has been announced for a couple games that are highly endorsed here by the Ghost in the Podcast. We're also going to look ahead to the horror titles of 2015. That's something we didn't get around to doing last week, so I want to make sure we take some time to do that. And, of course, Baron gets blitzed because I'm going to be drinking. There's Godzilla. You might want to hold him up higher to the camera so he gets a better view.
He's kind of short like me.
Yes, there's Godzilla. He has some interesting news about his potential future here. I really rock the sunglasses. See, I have to put mine on in solidarity now. There, Godzilla. See, we're good. See, now we're in solidarity. That's the little ghost thing you put on him. The boo.
He wears that himself.
And the fedora. I should find my fedora. I've got it upstairs somewhere.
I don't know where it is. It's not in the costume closet.
So Godzilla, what is your...
I don't have a costume closet or anything.
So Godzilla, now that your American movie has actually been surprisingly good and hasn't sucked ass like most people were fearing, how does it feel to actually be somewhat a little bit more successful than before? Raw, that's all you got? There's no need to swear, sir. This is a family-oriented show. We're going to need you to watch your language. That's my cell phone! Put it down! Would you control your client, please? You threw my puppet! All right, Godzilla's too surly right now. He's been pre-gaming.
Oh, great. Now you made him stomp out of the studio.
Good, he can go play with the
how
cats.
Really? Our first show and you're already throwing guests out?
Well, you know what? It's not my fault he's being a little bit of a diva right now, okay? He is being a diva. I asked him one question, and he had to just start swearing. F this and effing mothers, you know, obviously he thinks he's too good. You know what? For a guy who's been around since the 1950s, he certainly has a big attitude.
Well, he's old and surly.
Yeah, but he should be old and established. He should be the Morgan Freeman of monster movies. He should just be well distinguished, you know, well spoken and relaxed. You don't see Morgan Freeman flipping shit on an interview set, even when he's pissed. The guy's just got too much class.
That's true. That's true.
That's it. That's all you got.
I'm sorry. Old and surly just reminded me of my encounters with the Goffs earlier today when I stopped at Shein.
Oh, tell this story. I like this story. Tell the story of the Goths.
Oh my God. So, all right. So I was out running errands earlier today, and I stopped off at our local gas station because I needed to get my car washed, and there was a pretty decent line. It's a pretty warm day here in Cleveland for December. So I stopped off to get a snack first, you know, while I'm waiting for them to make my food. In walk these three, they're obviously teenage girls. They had to be older than 18 because they came in to buy Marlboro Black cigarettes. So that just shows you how fucking goth they are. So there's
real goths smoke Marlboro.
Not just Marlboro Blacks. So even the pack has black everything on it.
Why I die, I prefer my cancer stick reflect my soul.
Exactly. See? You speak to them.
Only because I have to. I work with half of them as my job requirement.
So anyway, you know, there's three of them, and they're dressed like very stereotypically like super goth. Like one is like really tall, dressed head to toe in like this black tight vinyl with her hair dyed black and spiked in a big mohawk, you know, and just looking all surly. And then her friends, you know, one has like bright blue hair, and you know she's got the patches on and the ripped, you know, fishnets, and you know the big combat boots. And I was like, all right. And the third one's, you know, she's a little more demure. You know, she's wearing a grungy hat, and you know her hair's in a rainbow down her back, and you know she's got the corduroy and the little Mary Jane shoes going on like a badass Lolita. So
badass little Lolita.
So I'm standing there, you know, they're also waiting for, you know, their food or drink or whatever it is that gods consume. And I'm, you know, watching them, you know, because you know, nothing better to do. Aside from texting Bio about my, the kicking up my chicken with the spicy Asian sauce, but that's totally different story. So I'm standing there waiting for my food, and I'm listening to them going back and forth, giggling and stuff, when a song comes over the PA system. And they just start going crazy, like,
oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Oh my god, I love this song. And, they're just trying to remember the name of it. And, yeah, I just heard it, recently. It's great new music and stuff. And I'm sitting there laughing because the song that came on was Blue October's Hate Me, which came out when I was finishing high school, 13 years ago. So they're going on. They're like, oh yeah, I can't remember. Finally, I turned to him. I said, it's Blue October. The song's called Hate Me, and they just stopped and they're like, and then looking at me like, I mean, I was dressed, I dressed pretty conservatively. I was just, pretty much like I am now. I had my coat on, my green scarf. They're just like looking me up and down, like, how do you know that? That's just, duh. I was like, yeah, I have Papa Roach on my iPod too, and they're just looking
Papa
at me
Roach,
like,
do you even know who that is?
Yes. Do I know? Of
No,
course.
do they know?
Do they know? Yes, they did. So, who knows? They were. What are you doing?
Nothing. I'm definitely not writing notes to secretly show the camera while you're talking. Go ahead, continue. Your story is interesting. What?
I got a little something for you.
This is a family-oriented show, so we're going to need you to go ahead and cut down on the fingers.
I already had the conversation with management about, I'm totally okay with flipping you off as long as I, block it from the camera.
Yeah, our management I'm
Just
not
saying.
worried about, all right?
Yeah.
It's Twitch management I'm more worried
Yeah,
about.
exactly. I'm in the clear. There's nothing going on here.
Oh, they're aware
Smoke
of
and
you,
mirrors.
Baron. They're aware of
Smoke
you.
and mirrors. But yeah, they're looking at me like, she's like poser, Mary Sue. All I can think about is Ennaby and her magic little goth friends, and I blew their minds because they're looking at me like, what is? I really think that I made them question what it is to be a goth today. I hope that I gave them something to think about.
I'm more convinced they probably think you're a poser. Oh, she's just a wannabe, because, adults have time to worry about that kind of stuff.
Well, I went back to my car and I lit the tiny little candle under my portable Kurt Cobain poster, and just didn't...
Stop stealing my line. And my poster. No, I bet there's.
Shrunk in. It's all
I bet they went home and started contemplating whether or not to cut themselves because they were just schooled by a non-goth about music, about their own music. Exactly. That's hilarious.
Oh.
It'd be like someone. It's like taking like an advanced business class, and some English major walks up and lectures to you about the ins and outs of supply and demand. It's like, what the hell do you know about any of that, poser? Get the hell out of here. And then you really have to go back and re-question what you've been doing with your life.
Oh my God.
Okay, there were actually some pretty good comments that we're going through here. Vampy said, well, it looks like I'm not doing blue as my next hair color. And then Biomed Alchemist says, it's the only cigarette that understands me. Yes, the black cigarettes. If those little goth chicks had My Little Ponies, their ass tramp or the tramp stamp would be a cigarette, a black one,
Yeah.
and it'll be Marlboros because nothing's more cliched. That's what I love about those kids. They're like, I'm an individual. I'm a unique snowflake, just like everyone else. Yes, because that makes you unique, being like everyone else. Marlboro, the cigarettes for the goth kids who think they're individuals.
Here's the thing about unique snowflakes. During a blizzard, they all melt together. It's true.
And just like flakes, they all become drips when you bring them inside. So that's pretty much
good
the story
point.
of them.
Good
So
point.
the tramp stamp on My Little Pony, says Biomed. He's laughing. Isn't that what it is?
Did you?
Isn't that a
miss
tramp stamp?
Conversation bio.
That escalated quickly. Nothing's a surprise here on Ghost in the Podcast, but yes, the little tramp stamps would be cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
What were their?
Excuse me, cutie marks. They're cutie.
No, it's a tramp stamp. Let's call it what it is. Okay, they can call it a cutie mark, but you know what? They're getting people ready for tramp stamps. And is that Calvin's head I see poking up behind us?
It is. He's attacking. Oh God.
He's not attacking Godzilla. He was sniffing at him. He's like, "What are you doing down here?" Oh, it's just off camera angle, so they can't see it. Well, hopefully Calvin will venture a little bit more closely next time when we go ahead and do this.
Killer McCoy writes, my mind has just been blown by Baroness. Yeah, that kind of happens sometimes.
Holy shit, she knows gothic music.
Oh.
See, I wish I had a funny story from this week, but this week has been anything but has been not funny at all. It's like
Continue.
this week has been. I got to be honest. This is one of the crappiest weeks of my life as far as just because of all the shit that's happened. It's like if it could go wrong this week, it did. I'm not talking about one of those weeks where it's like little petty problems, where it's like, oh, it's just little stuff and it compiles. The computer's not working. You can't get your iPod to work. And we're not talking like little problems here. Something came up at work, and I'm not going to say what it is because I really don't want to broadcast all that information here on Twitch. But
You can't. Anyway.
well, I can as long as I don't mention any identifying information. But let's just say that, okay, for those of you that are new, I work with at-risk youth as part of my day job. And one of them went and did something that was a first experience for me to have to go through as a person who works for him, kind of like in a mentor sort of way. And it was a very, very, very difficult time dealing with it. So, and unfortunately, there's nothing really funny to say about it. It's like I'm one of those when I go through shitty things in life, and I understand that there's people out there that don't share this philosophy. It's like, you know what, some people even think that it's like naive to think this way, but I'm one of those, and in all the kids I work with, I teach them there is not a horrible thing in this world that can happen to you where you cannot find one positive thing that came out of it. It might be small, it might be hard to see, and it's not going to fix the problem. It's not going to make it any different. It's not going to make anything that happened any less of a tragedy, but there's always one good thing that comes out of it. And even though I found that one good thing in this whole situation, and yes, it took a long time to soul search that out, and when I found it, I felt a lot better. But to me, it's like the only way you can really get through life. Because, we always talk about horror on this show. And I digress. I know sometimes I talk about more serious issues, kind of like this one, and it's not as entertaining or as funny, which is what, a lot of the shows in Rivalcast strive to be, and as we do at times. But for me, it's one of those things where it's like you have to talk about it because horror doesn't just happen on the screen or in the book or whatever. Horror is a part of life. That's part of the reason why the genre was created. And when you think about that, and you think about all the terrible things we get through, and you think about the human condition, you really have to wonder, how do people get through all the terrible things that happen? Because we have to. And what are the different reactions we have? Well, there's crying, there's laughing, there's anger, there's millions of different ways to react, but at the end of the day, we have to find a way to get us through from one day to the next. And my way is I find one positive thing. And I think when you have that mindset, when you have that attitude, it puts a lot of things in perspective. And it helps you get through the worst things you've ever been through. Now, my own family in a lot of ways says that this is very naive thinking. I've had multiple arguments, and usually it's the atheist crowd that I have this argument with because they don't think about the bright side of anything in my experiences. They just don't. Everything's random. Everything's chaos. Blah, 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 blah. Not going to get in here to pick on atheists because it is what it is. I'm just saying that just tends to be the ones that argue with the most on this topic. But it took a really long time for me to think about it. But when I have that mindset, I was able to come out of you saw me that day. I was not in good shape. My boss, I found out this news at school. I consulted at a couple local school districts working with these kids. And when I found out the news, I had to leave. I walked out of the school. I packed my shit and I got out. Because the first thing you teach kids when you're trying to deal with rough emotions is if you're overwhelmed, get out of the situation for a little bit. Clean your head, clear your air, clear your head, whatever. And that's what I did. You know what? If I'm going to give the advice, I got to be able to take it. I'm not going to tell somebody to do something that I wouldn't do. So I pack up my shit and I leave, call my boss and say, hey, I'm coming into the office, which is in downtown Cleveland. The school that I'm at's about a half hour away. So I get there, sit down, tell him everything that happens. He brings me in with the associate director of the department. I tell her what happens, and they're all sympathetic and empathetic and doing everything they need to do. And they pretty much said, you know what? You did everything you could. You did all the right things. You got out of there when you needed to. Go ahead and go see this kid at wherever it is that this kid is at, and then go home, take the rest of the day off. Don't worry about a thing. In fact, you can even go home now if you really don't want to go see him if you don't think you're in the mood. And I said, no, I'm going to. I've been with this kid for 2 years. Actually, a little over 2 years. I'm going to go see him first. And I did, and I spent about 3 or 4 hours there. And, I wasn't, my boss told me go as a clinician, go as somebody that's there to do a job. I didn't. I went there as a guy who's concerned about somebody he knows and somebody he's worked with. So I went there as more of a family friend. And seeing him, again, not going through all the details, it was a very rough experience. And when I got home, I was in a really bad mood. And what I like about us, Baroness, is, yeah, we argue a lot when we're on the air here. We fight a lot. We put on a good show. And we do fight a little bit even outside the show because what couple doesn't? But what I really love about you is when we have that relationship where I can tell you, this is what I need. I need space. I need time. I need this. And you say, okay, you got it. And you just do it. You don't question, you don't argue. And I do the same thing. And the best part is we have that understanding that that's not forever. It's just until we're ready. And then we've always been there when we are. So I do owe you a big thank you for that, because that's never easy to do. And I know I do it as well. That's how I know it's not easy, because, you care, you want to find out what's going on. You want to jump right in and solve the problem. That's just the way we are. We're fixers.
Yeah.
And we're problem solvers. And sometimes you can't be. And sometimes you got to wait. So I really do want to thank you for that live on the air in front of everybody, especially our new people, because I think you deserve it. It really was a shitty ass week. And it was one of the hardest things in my life I've ever gone through. And the worst part is, I make it sound like it was horrible for me. It was even worse for the kid in this family, especially the kid. So I don't want to get too lost in my own baggage here, but even as somebody who was working on it, it wasn't easy. So thank you. So I wanted to say that. So unfortunately, no funny joke, no funny time about my week. Unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot that was funny about it. And then, top it off with migraines and everything else. And it's just, it was a bad week.
You've been getting migraines when you get stressed out, and that was definitely probably the most stressed I've seen you in a very long time.
Yeah, that was not a fun time. Thank you, dear. All right, so anyway, let's move back on to more interesting topics, because we have to worry about keeping new listeners. I don't think the sentimentality crap's going to work. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the topics for this evening. Your drinking game, ladies and gentlemen, has now started. And I noticed Manly Stuff did not do his typical, there hasn't been any horror yet and yada, yada, yada. But he does say, to Manly Stuff's credit, shows don't need to be funny. They do need to entertain. And, and you're right. And hopefully this is still, entertaining enough. But let's move on to topics here. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about number one on here. Sony Pictures gets hacked. So, Baroness, what have you heard about Sony Pictures other than the little bits I've been telling you here and there today?
Well, the stuff that we talked about last week on the air.
Which was? Refresher listeners.
I don't remember.
You were even here.
I know I was.
It's pretty bad.
I'm sorry. I've also had a bad week. Thank you very much.
It's pretty bad when the co-host just tunes you out. See this? You see that glint in her eyes? That's like 30 seconds before she strikes, ladies and gentlemen.
What I need is one of those big foam hands to really give you the,
I hope you can see this, because I'm doing it as hard as I can.
Again.
Just flick me off. No one cares. No one cares.
Standards. Continue on.
Since when you have standards? Oh, because the camera's on. That's why we have standards. You married me. It's obvious you have no standards.
I was gonna say, you set yourself up for that one.
I got no problem setting myself up. I'm aware. Oh, please, you're lucky to have me, and you know it. Anyway, so let's move on to Sony Pictures. I hate to say it, but I am kind of a big deal here.
You are so lucky that the couch is comfortable. You are so lucky.
That's right. I can actually show you guys my couch now. Maybe we'll have to do that later with a roving camera.
The couch actually made it into episode 7 of the Varyar. Well, actually, the RCM. It was a renamed RCM fanfic that posted yesterday.
I did. I noticed that, and I was very, very proud of that. That was one of your better ones. I like that. It was long.
Well, yeah. I'm starting to get the J.K. Rowling syndrome, where everybody wants more, so I just keep not editing. It's like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Let's just write it out.
But now you have to kill off a really secondary character that's only been in the thing for like 30 seconds and kill them off, and then talk about how you cried about it. No. Oh my God, I killed this character. They were so important to the plot. They were in like one book for like 30 seconds. You blink and you miss it.
I can't kill off Bio, but there is crying.
No, you can't kill Bio. Bio's important.
There is, yeah, I know.
We found that out. He runs everything.
Yeah, he really does.
We can't kill Bio. He's too important.
He is rival cast. But
who's less important we can kill off? I'm afraid to mention names because I know someone's going to get offended.
We're not mentioning names.
There's some candidates, but
yeah, we're not mentioning anybody. But what was I going to say? Shit, you threw me off topic. Oh, there is crying in episode 8. That's
crying.
That's the only. Episode 8 is a lot darker, and I'm not sure how well it's going to go over, but it has to be that way because it sets up what happens for the remainder of the story arc.
Baroness setting up her Empire Strikes Back episode. I like it. With some tears. You heard it here first, folks. Some spoilers for the RCM fanfic. All right, so anyway, back to topic. And Baroness, you get a point, although you can't win prizes because, you work on the show. So...
Because I make the prizes?
Yes.
I'll have whatever prizes I damn well feel like. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but you're not winning it. You're just making it. I suppose I can make you one. But I made you dinner the other night, so...
I feel like a winner.
I'm trying not to burp into the microphone. This came back as a criticism on a couple shows ago.
Yeah.
Olive was not happy with the fact I was burping into the mic all the time.
Yeah, I actually went back when I was trying to remember a couple of things that we talked about on the show that I was trying to work into an article I was writing, not fanfic related. And when I usually when I go back and listen to those, I just, I go to the specific part where I know it is. But this time I was listening to like the full episodes, and it was absolutely amazing how many belches came through just randomly in the middle of conversation. It was just a very jarring experience.
I'm not laughing at that. Bioman Alchemist, Elmo is Varyar's father? No! It can't be! It's impossible! No!
That makes so much sense. Oh my god. Oh my god.
That's why he hates creepy little kids,
Wow.
adds Killer McCoy. It explains
Wow.
so much.
It really does.
Folks, this is why you got to listen to this show, because you're missing all the fun stuff of all the other Rivalcast media shows. Varyar is the co-host for the Rivalcast. They had their show on this channel last night. He's also the station owner, and it's hilarious,
Thank
the
God
stuff
he has
that we
a good
do.
sense of humor. That's all I gotta say.
And then he loses his hand and falls down an air vent. So next week, Varyar needs to have an episode where he's got his hand in his sleeve like this. No! Oh, that'd be great. That'd be
I
great.
had this all plotted out, and now you guys throw that at me. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, but I think it's already been done before, so I wouldn't blame you if you didn't go with it. All right, so anyway, let's get back to the topic, because we keep getting derailed already. This does not bode well. And I have been taking drinks as we go along, folks, so I'm not forgetting.
I think Bio gets like 3 points by this point, doesn't he? Are you
All
not
right.
even writing them down?
Bio,
My God.
Bio, you get a point.
Somebody else got a point earlier. Jeez.
No one else got a point yet.
Yes, you awarded points earlier.
Who did I award a point to?
I'm trying to remember.
I gave you a point.
Manly Stuff got a point for something. I
Did he?
remember. Yeah. It was early in the... Well, let me go back. Hold on.
Well, I don't remember, but Manly, I'll give you a point anyway because you're awesome. So, anyway. Plus, Manly Stuff, you still have to cash in for your Let's Play. We need to get together and figure out when we're going to do that, because I know you're not stateside, so we got to think of something for you. All right, so anyway, let's get to the show topic. So, Sony Pictures gets hacked. Now, the story behind all this, in case you've been living in a barrel for, however long this story has been broken out for, which has been a week or so. Sony Pictures has made a movie called The Interview, starring Seth Rogen. Yes, I know we all hate Seth Rogen. He's fat, lazy, and can't act. But, hey, he did a movie. So, he's done this movie with James Franco called The Interview, where he and James Franco are going overseas to North Korea to interview Kim Jong-un, however you pronounce his name. I've been drinking. Whatever, I've been drinking. And the CIA recruits them to murder him. Okay, so that's the storyline. So North Korea in real life got pissed about this whole thing.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, I can't imagine why not. And a few days later, Sony Pictures gets hacked, and they release tons and tons of information to the internet, free movies, and we're talking about some of the deepest, darkest stuff that's been going on. This has been, and one of the more interesting ones, and when I say deepest, darkest stuff, I refer to what they've been saying about President Obama. They actually have secret emails that went back and forth between all the different executives.
That's, like, super professional.
It is because a lot of them backed him and paid money to him, and then they're bashing him on professional emails, and it all leaks out. It's like, how stupid can you be? And it's deep, dark secret because it's personal stuff. Even if it is business, it is still personal.
What?
It's supposed to be an internal thing, not something that goes national for everybody else. I don't feel sorry for the executives at all. Don't get me wrong.
I don't understand
but
why it would be an internal thing, because aren't there like campaign laws about who's allowed to donate to campaigns and how much and why?
Oh, but if you look at First Energy, they donated tons of money, and look at how much General Electric. They donated tons of money, and one of their guys is put in charge of some electric or some energy focused group from the government. This shit happens all the time, and it's not.
I know.
And Obama's not the only one. I'm not going to just throw him under the bus. They've all done it. I can't think of one off the top of my head that didn't. And so what? I mean, that's the way it goes. Oh, you are seeing that is Calvin in the background, ladies and gentlemen. He is kind of looking around. He is surveying the damage that Godzilla has done. He has now entered the room. So if we see an orange cat come through that door, that's Hobbs. Then we'll have a little fight meter go up as to when they're at risk for brawling.
Yeah, then what'll happen is the camera's gonna go out because they're gonna knock over the tripod that we have that set up on.
Oh, there they go. They're in the basement. The funny thing is on the video, you see Calvin's tail go like this, like a shark fin, and then you see Hobbs come up right behind him. And then they just went running down the stairs. So they're fighting in the basement. When they come running up here, hopefully we'll get them on camera
they're
here.
Kind of eat the Christmas presents again, aren't they?
I don't know. My Christmas presents are up here. and not wrapped
No,
yet. So
no, your Christmas presents are downstairs. They are
don't
wrapped.
touch my presents. Damn kids. All right. So anyway, going back to our topic, Calvin and Hobbes
For
both
the
get a
third
point.
time.
This is why we have a drinking game, ladies and gentlemen. We kind of get wandering very easily. Good news is it gets you guys a lot of points if you're on top of things. So anyway, going back to the Sony discussion. So we're not going to go the way of the politics and talk about the whole Obama thing. That's not our boat. So let's talk about how it's going to impact their movies. Well, it impacts the James Bond movie first and foremost because not only did they leak the script and several visuals that they've already done, they also detailed information about their budgeting. In fact, there's been so much budget information that's been released. Sony has put the kibosh on all of their film projects right now. All their film projects have been halted because they can't afford to pay all the bills and stuff that are coming due because of all the information leakage. And they were already struggling from the get-go because they did not have a good financial 2013. So how does that impact us? Well, there's a couple bits of information that came out that are pretty important to what we're doing. First and foremost is the Ghostbusters 3 news. Now, this was reported on BloodyDisgusting.com. It was also posted on Screen Rant. I don't know, Shock Tea Drop News, pretty much all the usual offenders that we do here. And the title of this piece, and we're not going to read the whole thing because, who wants to sit here, listen to us read all the time unless it's Bat Orc doing the reading.
Yeah, post the link up in IRC for the plebeians that, really want to know.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and post this up in IRC.
So if you really
I'm
want to
hoping.
read the link.
And for those of you that are watching in Twitch, this should bleed over to you guys as well. Yes, it did. Okay, so that's a link to the article. And the article is entitled Ghostbusters Shocker. Cast interest leaked. Sony considered suing Bill Murray. Yes, they thought about suing Bill motherfucking Murray. All right, so here's what, and this was reported first by the Daily Beast. And this is a quote. An email dated October 31st, 2013 from David Steinberg, head of Sony Pictures Entertainment Legal Department, to Leah Weil, or however they pronounce her name.
Doesn't matter, keep going.
Which is Sony Pictures' general counsel, touches on Bill Murray's alleged reluctance to star in Paul Feig's planned all-women Ghostbusters adaptation. If the email exchange is to be believed, Sony was planning, quote, aggressive litigation counsel, end quote, to evaluate the situation, but wanted to keep it quiet so as not to harm the studio's reputation by publicly going after a celebrated actor like Murray. All right. There's more to this, but we're going to stop there because I want to touch on this first. So basically, Sony Pictures is saying, because Bill Murray doesn't want anything to do with Ghostbusters 3, we're going to sue his ass and force him to get involved in this. That is basically what this is saying.
Is what I was when you started telling me about this earlier today, I was like, but on what grounds would they have to sue him to force him to be in a movie?
They don't say that in this article, unfortunately, because I was wondering that myself. Because can you imagine like Michael Keaton saying, I'm not going to do Batman Forever, and he's not under contract, and they go ahead and sue him. No, you're going to play Batman.
It's like, no, I really am not.
Well, what kind of precedent would that set? If I want to go ahead and have a certain actor or actress play a part, and I can go ahead and sue them to get them to play it if they're not under contract. That's what doesn't make any sense to me. If Bill Murray had signed a contract years ago that said, I will play Peter Venkman in something, and then he refuses to do it, okay, I understand where you have some legal recourse, sue his ass, he's under contract. But from the way this article reads, it doesn't sound like he was under contract. And if you're not under contract, you're right. What kind of aggressive litigation can you do to the guy? And then you're going to keep it secret because you don't want to piss him off? Well, guess what? If you're going to sue him, you're eventually going to piss him off. What, tipping him off about the fact that he might get sued? What's that going to do? If you got grounds to sue him, just because he knows it's coming, it's not going to change whether or not you can actually sue the guy or not. Okay. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. So let's imagine Sony's point of view. They want to do Ghostbusters 3. They had Dan Aykroyd. They had Ernie Hudson and Harold Ramis when he was still alive. Because all this happened before it was announced they were going to do an all-women reboot. So you get the three of the four want to do it. The other three, they haven't really been up to much of anything. Harold Ramis has done some directing and some writing. He hasn't really been in much lately. Dan Aykroyd's been doing C movies lately and some Sci-Fi Channel movies, so he's in desperation of something legitimate. And Ernie Hudson, I don't think, has really been up to much either. And, there's nothing wrong with that. The guys have been around forever. They're established names, established brands. They probably don't need the money necessarily. And they already did the video game not that long ago, so Bill Murray's the only friggin' holdout. So...
All right. I think I found some context for this alleged potential litigation.
Lean more into your mic because your volume's not going up as high.
All right, so cinemablend.com is, I just Googled it just to see who else was saying what, to see what pieces were missing from Bloody Disgusting's article. There's an article on cinemablend.com right now, just posted yesterday on the similar topic. They write, aside from the chaos that a legal suit with Bill Murray would cause, does Sony even have the means to sue? If Murray still held his portion of the rights to the franchise, it could be possible, especially since Murray openly mocked previous screenplays for a new Ghostbusters film. Yada, yada, yada. In interviews years back, Dan Aykroyd insisted that Murray had officially given up his rights to the Ghostbusters property, so that would kind of negate that argument.
I remember that story.
In an interview with Esquire, Aykroyd states, quote, "Well, I have 1/5 of the voice along with the partners and the other owner of the property, the picture company, and Ivan, Billy Murray, myself, and Harold Ramis. We all have to sign off on it unanimously. I'm not sure Billy does anymore since he abrogated his rights by saying 2 years ago, he said, I don't want to be involved. And the picture company, I think, had some clause in there that if he actually passed on the third or fourth offer, he was no longer has a view of the franchise. So that's for the lawyers to decide."
Okay, so that's pretty much
that makes
saying.
a little more sense.
So that's basically saying all the actors had some kind of rights to the movie, and Sony would argue that in the contracts, the main three, and Sony would argue that because Bill Murray gave up or said he didn't want any part of it, it would automatically give up his share in this. Right? Is that what the article was saying?
Yeah. Although this puts an interesting spin on Ernie Hudson's recent statements too about what he would have done differently and.
Oh, and how it was originally how it was originally written. Yeah.
If you're looking at this, and I'm going to post the link in IRC in a second. If you look at this, they specifically mention, I can't remember Ivan's last name. He was the director. Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Bill Murray, but they don't mention Ernie Hudson, who was the fourth lead, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of, that's interesting. Okay, that puts some of his statements in a new perspective then, because he wasn't.
He originally was supposed to be a much bigger part of the movie, and then claimed like before they went to shoots, they had removed almost everything about him, and he pretty much was a forgotten character in the first movie. I mean, he didn't even show up until 3/4 of the way it was over with.
Right.
But in the fourth one, he had a little bit of a bigger part, or in that fourth one, the second one, he had a little bit of a bigger part.
Epic Lurker writes, Your Honor, Bill Murray is interfering with our ability to make a shitty movie. We feel he must be a part of the cast to protect our livelihood.
And Lead Haxer has a good point. You know what? The actor could just roll with it and act terribly. Did anybody actually play the Ghostbusters video game? I am a huge fan of the game. I absolutely loved it. But if you can't tell that Bill Murray is fucking phoning it in, then you're dense as hell. He had absolutely no interest in even being there. And Dan Aykroyd, when he wrote the script, him and Harold Ramis wrote the script for the video game, it even comes off like they knew he wasn't going to do shit for it. That's why it's like at times they completely wrote him out of the story where he goes for coffee or he just happens to wander off on his own. There's only like one part where you actually wander around with Bill Murray's character. And the whole time he's just sleeping right through it. And granted, it was still cool that he did it, and it's still cool that they had all the, everything was about Ghostbusters, but you could tell his heart wasn't in it. Yeah. It was like watching Garfield when he's doing the voice. It's like, dude, you can tell he's just paycheck.
Bio sums it up. I think you hit the nail right on the head here. So they're saying that he's trying to sink the ship because he didn't want it to be made. I don't necessarily know that he wouldn't want it to be made, especially given the comments he's had about Melissa McCarthy. They just shot a movie together. I should know what the title of this is, but my brain is not working properly today. But he was very openly, what's the word I'm looking for? Not critical, the opposite of critical.
Supportive?
Supportive, thank you. My brain, wow. This is what happens when you stay up until 8:30 in the morning writing articles and then get up at 11:06. Anyway, yeah, he's been openly supportive of Melissa McCarthy and the potential that she has for being in an all-female Ghostbusters cast. So I don't think it's necessarily that he doesn't want it to be made. I think it's just his filmography is a lot more than just Ghostbusters. Even though that's, when you think of Bill Murray, that is, by and large, the first role that comes to mind is,
that or Caddyshack.
His portrayal of Peter Venkman, or, Caddyshack, or, the films he made with the SNL crew from the 70s, which he's proud of those, but I think it's just he wants to distance himself from that persona. He's done tons of other stuff, comedic and dramatic, and he's a fantastic actor. I think he's just trying to shake the Peter Venkman shadow.
See, I don't know if I agree with that. Because I think he already has. I mean, he's been nominated for Oscars. Mm-hmm. He's been in incredibly well-reviewed movies. Mm-hmm. He's had an extremely successful career. I think Bill Murray at this stage of his career is more than Bill Murray. I don't think it's so much he's worried about hiding in getting out of the shadow. I think he's just tired of playing him. Because there's a lot of actors out there that talk about how they never want to do sequels because they always feel like they're retreading something over and over and over again. Right. I mean, look at Christian Bale. He had the opportunity to make, what was it, $50 million to reprise his role as Batman after the Nolan trilogy, and he refused. Not because he didn't want the money, but because he didn't want to play the same character over and over again. And I can see that being Bill Murray's biggest thing. It's like, you know what, I've been there, I've done that. Yeah, I'm past being Peter Venkman. But I don't think it's because he hates the role or it thinks that it's holding him back. I just think it's because it doesn't add anything new for him. It's kind of like one of those, been there, done that kind of deals. Or like Michael Keaton with playing Batman. That's why the new Birdman movie is getting so popular. It's because it's about, an older Michael Keaton reflecting on the fact that he used to be a superhero, and the character in the movie is Birdman, but in real life it's Batman. It's just like he had no interest in doing it, and the script wasn't interesting. He did the video game because he thought, it's doing a video game. This is actually kind of interesting. This is a little different, but doing the movie and playing the same character again, you got to have a lot of love to keep reprising a character or be in desperate need of money or fame or both. And he doesn't need any of that. I mean, the guy doesn't even have an agent anymore. He takes his requests for film on an answering machine. You call and leave him a message, and if he's interested in what you have or even intrigued, he'll call you back. That's basically how he says he handles all of his business deals.
Which I completely respect, and I think we should do when we...
I agree.
I really think that's fantastic. What I'm going to do.
That is fantastic. And he's established enough that he can do that. He doesn't... It's basically him saying, you know what, Hollywood, I don't need you. And I love that mindset. Bill Watterson of Calvin Hobbes fame had that mindset. I don't need this. I do this because I want to do it. I don't care if we make tons of money. I'm going to make tons of money anyway. I love that attitude because it's like, it's some people think it's like, well, that's arrogant, that's conceited, and maybe it is. But at the same time, I think it also gives Hollywood and everybody else to think they're so important a reality check. Look, we don't need you to be successful. Bill Murray could go ahead and do friggin' student films from here on out, and his name alone will make them millions of dollars. Because he is that good. He is that good. He just always is. He doesn't need Peter Venkman. He doesn't need Ghostbusters 3. Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson can't say the same thing. Yeah, they're household names. Yeah, they're popular. But they need Ghostbusters. That's why I think they want to get it started now so many years later. Think about it. The last movie came out in what, 1989? 1990?
Ghostbusters 2 was 92, I think.
I think it was 89. Batman 2 was 92.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Ghostbusters 2 was 1989. I remember because I saw it in theaters. Because the first one came out in 84.
Yeah, I remember.
So 5 years later, it'd be 89. And now it's what? It's 2014. Almost 2015. This movie wouldn't even come out until 2015, 2016. So why do this movie now so many years later when they missed the opportunity to do this? Because at the time, nobody needed Ghostbusters 3. Dan Aykroyd was having a successful career doing movies. Mm-hmm. Until he started doing Celtic Pride, then we pretty much know where that was going. And yes, that's Calvin meowing. Harold Ramis had a very successful career as a director. Some of his movies sucked, but it was still overall a very good, role as a director. Ernie Hudson had some good, successful franchises that he was a part of. Yeah, he was never a household name, but he wasn't like he was a schlub either. They didn't need it. Now they do. They're getting older. They need to worry about their legacy. Well, they don't need to, but they are. Bill Murray has legacy elsewise. Almost an Oscar winner, have done such great movies, The Life Aquatic, Broken Flowers and Lost in Translation, and the list goes on and on and on. The rest don't have that. Harold Ramis never won an Oscar for a movie he directed. Dan Aykroyd, like I said, has been doing C movies forever. Ernie Hudson's doing God knows what. Other than this whole Ghostbusters thing, his name hasn't even been in the news of any relevance in probably over a decade, if not longer. They need it. Sony Pictures sounds like they need it. From the way a lot of these articles read after this whole thing leaked out, they are financially in a really bad shape because they had a really awful 2013, and this is not going to help matters any. I mean, especially, and then, the next topic we're going to get into is Spider-Man. The Spider-Man movie, bombed compared to what they were expecting. It was still a successful movie, so bombed is not necessarily an appropriate term, but compared to what Spider-Man was doing, this was considered a bomb. And that was one of their tentpole films. And when your tentpole film is not producing anywhere near what you expected, you've really got to reconsider what it is you're doing.
It screws with the budget for everything else that you're doing.
Exactly. And it screws with what ideas you can take. Suddenly you go ahead and pass on other ideas that maybe you would have passed before. More risky films don't get made that way if the tentpoles don't succeed. It's like college football. College football is massively successful and profitable, but it also finances every other sport that a college can have. You get rid of that tentpole, everything else goes bye-bye with it.
Yep.
As much as we all want to say, it's great that we have these artsy-fartsy independent films, well, if you didn't have the major blockbusters, you wouldn't have these artsy-fartsy films, because that's where you're going to get your financing from. Even Kickstarter, no one's going to finance something if no one cares. So I think that's where it's coming in now, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so against Ghostbusters 3. And the fact they're going to have an all-female cast, yeah, and they went ahead in the next part of this article talks about the casting list of the women they'd like to act or hire and the ones that are interested in it. And some of them are pretty good names. They're pretty decent actresses, but I don't want to see it. It has nothing against them. It's nothing against, we're going to get a whole this misogyny, feminist conversation or whatever. It has nothing to do with any of that. The Ghostbusters time came and went. We don't need it anymore. And I love Ghostbusters. On my mantle right over there, I have my Stay Puft and I have my Ecto-1. On the wall in there, I have my old Stay Puft Marshmallow Man action figure. I have a Lego set of the Ecto-1 that you bought me for last Christmas.
That, by the way?
I have to get the windshield to stick down. I can't get it to stay right. But yes, I'm almost done. I was actually messing with it just the other day. On my bad day when I needed to distract my mind. But anyway, you get the point. I'm still a huge Ghostbusters fan. When the Ghostbusters game came out, I bought my PlayStation 3 to play it. So again,
it's true.
It's not. I'm not against it, and for me to come, it's just we don't need it. It's done. It's over with. There's nothing that an all-female cast is going to bring that's going to convince me, no matter how good they are, that we needed another Ghostbusters movie. That the story needs to be told again. Hi, Calvin. Calvin is meowing, so if you hear that in the background, that's him trying to say hello. Come here. Want to come say hi to everybody? Come here. Come here. Don't just stand there and meow. Come here. Come here. Just like a child, he listens so well.
All right, we'll continue on with the show because, nobody wants to see you.
Everybody wants to see the cat.
Staring at a cat who doesn't want to be part of.
He does. He's standing there. He didn't run away, did he? He wants me to follow him. That's what he's doing. But anyway. All right. In IRC, they're talking about Kickstarter. Epic Lurker says, from what Sony said about Spider-Man, his problems might be with Sony rather than the movie. What's love got to do with it? Says Manly Stuff. But again, with Kickstarter, they will back things that have no hope of gaining ground. Okay, that may be. But the idea of Kickstarter is you back something you're interested in. Well, no one's going to be interested in an artsy-fartsy movie if they're not interested in movies in the first place. Let's be honest. If big budget mega blockbusters start bombing and they're not successful, movie theaters are going to be following very shortly after that. We've talked about here in the show. Box office numbers are down with home entertainment centers and big screen TVs and yada yada yada. It's the way things are going, which is a shame because especially as a horror fan in the horror genre, being a movie theater experience is fantastic for that genre. The bigger screen, the surround sound, the dark atmosphere, the being in a giant room, especially if you're watching the movie and when there's not a lot of people there. It's definitely, scary because you end up making that sidelong glance to the seats around you to see if anybody suddenly appears who wasn't there before. Or maybe that's just me and my paranoia, but I always do that.
I feel the need to stalk you to the theater one night when you're going to see one of those films and buy a ticket, not to watch the movie, but just to lurk outside and wait for the scary parts to just grab you from behind.
I would murder you for that. You see you dangling a little spider over my head like, be scared, Baron. I could see that very easily.
That's brilliant. I wasn't even thinking about the spider, but since you brought it up.
Well, speaking of bringing things up, Epic Lurker mentioned the whole Spider-Man debacle, so let's go there next. So here's some news that released based on this whole Sony thing about Spider-Man. And there's 3 different articles about how different things are impacting the Spider-Man franchise. First and foremost, the news that came out is next month they're having a, quote, Spidey Summit. Yes, a Spidey Summit, where all the higher-ups of Sony Pictures are going to get together and try to figure out what the hell they're doing with the Spider-Man franchise. I kid you not.
Isn't that what Arachnos called his political convention?
Could be. And for those of you that say Spider-Man is not horror, he's spiders. It involves spiders. There's Arachnos. It technically links. So
beautiful.
Yeah, he could be. Arachnos could be there. Maybe he's angry. Maybe he's like the Al Sharpton of spiders, and he's like pissed off with how spiders have been represented in the Spider-Man movies. How dare you show the spiders being violent by biting those humans and giving them superpowers? What, you think all the spiders have superpowers to give away like that? They're always trying to take things from us. That's the whole point of this story. We have got the power. And we need to stop giving it to the man by biting him, especially some nerdy little white kid. That's probably what the Spidey Summit's all about.
They're talking about you at the Spidey Summit.
I bet so. That damn Baron, we lost his the election for Lord of Terror, and we're pissed about it. We must take back the power. Just like in his advertisements that was on episode 67, which if you guys want to check that out, go to rivalcastmedia.com and download it, where we play all the Lord of Terror advertisements leading up into the election.
I was actually listening to them with my headset on the other day because I'd only listened to them when you were playing them through the speakers before, and they're most of them were recorded in stereo. If you have your headset on, it adds an entirely new dimension.
Yep, that was the idea. Most
Yeah.
people listen to this with their heads. Well, the
Yeah.
live stuff they listen with their headsets.
Yeah, well, I hadn't, so
Yeah, that was done intentionally,
So
especially
sad.
with the way Bio recorded his portions, which were fantastic. He nailed that accent
Oh my
perfectly. He
God.
really did. So yes, check those out to go ahead and get an idea of what we're talking about here. So that's kind of the downside of doing a Twitch thing like this for the first time, is because when you pick up new listeners and new viewers, they're not in with the inside jokes yet. So every so often we got to explain so they can catch up, because we don't want people to feel like they're too far behind.
that's the nice thing about like how when we do post the broadcasts, up for download on I really need to get some sleep tonight. Stitcher and the thing that Apple does, iTunes.
Yes.
God, it took me forever for that. Anyway, the nice thing is we actually put the little summations up as to what the episode is about. So you can actually go back and kind of use those as a guide to be like, okay, well, they're talking about elections in this one. Let's listen to this episode. They're talking about, whatever in this one. Oh, this one is where Baron first loses his pants. We definitely want to take a look at that one. So
Speaking of which, do IRC people want to find out if I'm wearing pants?
we were already warned about this. You're not allowed to stand up.
I'm allowed to stand up.
No, you're not.
I didn't buckle my boxers. Big Baron might be hanging out, so we don't want to have that. Okay, fine, I will not stand up.
Yeah.
But I will keep drinking.
We were warned about that. In fact, I was getting text messages about it shortly before we went on air to remind you.
Killer McCoy's like, no, man, this stuff is no.
And
Sit down.
Varyar, you bastard, is saying yes, yes.
And Vampy's like, Baroness, I made you to promise, make him sit. No, EE's like, yes, stand. Show us your wang. It's like, fuck you, Killer. Don't be rated G. Be rated R.
I love how the
We're
station.
going for X, baby.
I love how the station owner is the only one who is like all about this.
The station owner backs my pantless rules.
Oh my.
By the way, if you're watching this and you're wearing pants, shame on you, even if you're in public. But anyway, there are a couple other like pretty cool ones up here, because Missing is saying, you know what? It's weird here seeing people that I've only heard before.
Hi, Missing.
Hi, Missing.
Hello,
Oh,
Missing.
Missing, and Varyar missed.
All right,
this
and
too.
technically Missing, this counts as you getting a point because we're off topic right
Wait,
now.
he gets 2 because he inspired this one. This is a special one for you. And Varyar, you better be paying attention right now, sweetie, because I warned you that, your Christmas present was in the making.
Oh God, here we go.
And it is ready. For those
Here we go.
For those of you who are here at the very beginning of the show, you know what I'm about to do, but Missing, this one's for you. Kick back. Move.
I'm moving.
Missing, my little Varyar is now a thing, dear. He doesn't have his cutie mark yet, but it's gonna be a little bottle of booze.
It's not a cutie mark. It's a tramp stamp. It is the My Little Hoary tramp stamp. It's basically what they are. You've seen all the people dress up like those damn ponies. They're all whores. It's My Little Hoary.
No, those are furries, and they scare me.
Fire's like, God damn it. But anyway, there was something about Spider-Man I want to go back here. Missing is asking if Spider-Man is a priest of Arachnos, and Killer McCoy is like, no, he's just an avatar. Or he could be an illegitimate son, adds manly stuff, and Killer McCoy's like, dun, dun, dun. Which I'd love to have that sounder, but unfortunately Twitch is against that.
Kind of
so.
like how Varyar is now the illegitimate son of Elmo.
Exactly. Now everyone's
Sweet.
telling Varyar to suck it. So there you go. Oh, My Little Varyar asks Epic Lurker. Yeah, it's My Little Varyar. I do. It's a big hit. All right. So anyway, back to the Spider-Man thing. Yes, Spider-Man, and he's the Spidey Summit to talk about what they're going to do with Spider-Man. And the reason they're having this Spidey Summit, and this is number one, is I guess from what this is saying on Screen Rant, I'm going to go ahead and post this up in the forums right now, which will also go to the Twitch channel. So for those of you in Twitch that are not in the IRC chat room, we'll get to see this as well. Basically, the conversation is the bunch of emails leaked between the higher-ups over at Sony as to what they're going to do with Spider-Man. Because Marvel has been in contact with Sony to try to get some of the rights back to Spider-Man. The reason why is because they're going to do the Civil War storyline that Marvel did from a couple years ago, where all of Marvel Comics gets into the Civil War over, should mutants have to register with the government or shouldn't they? And Spider-Man played a kind of key role in that. Now, I'm not as familiar with the overall story arc, so I don't know how important he was in it. But they're claiming he is, so they wanted to go ahead and bring Spider-Man in and have him do either a cameo or be part of the third Captain America movie. And so the conversation started off with a whole bunch of these emails about what they're going to do with the future of Spider-Man, because they were already pushing back Amazing Spider-Man 3. Because the second one bombed compared to what they were hoping. It still made some money, but it made nowhere near what they were expecting. In fact, of the 5 Spider-Man movies they made, it made the least amount of money. By far. It wasn't even close. And critically, it was destroyed. People did not like this movie. So anyway, one of the first emails that came out here... Hold on one second. Excuse me. Producer Jeff Robinoff, a lot of these came from him in these emails. The first one reads, to argue that there's plenty of other superhero movies with levity in the marketplace, so why make more Spider-Man movies would be akin to saying that there's no room for James Bond films because of all the espionage films and franchises that have come out over the years. There will always be room for this beloved, iconic hero. And that spawns out of a conversation of whether or not they should even continue doing Spider-Man, because he is starting to lose his luster. In fact, he's starting to lose his luster so much, Sony originally was planning on branching out into doing several different franchises. A Venom movie, taking one of the female characters in the Spider-Man universe and giving her own movie, and doing a Sinister Six movie. The Sinister Six and Venom movies are supposedly already in pre-production. The next email he writes says, in the next Spider-Man movies, we can't just go back to the origin story. Think of the 25 films in the James Bond franchise. Just because a new creative team comes aboard and breathes new life into a classic property doesn't mean the origin story has to be retold. I will agree with that one. If they're going to remake Spider-Man, and this is branching off the possibility of doing a new Spider-Man trilogy, rebooting it for a third time, of just skipping over the whole entire reboot story, origin story, and flash forwarding to him as an adult. So then they can deal with the whole wedding. They can deal with him trying to be a father for the first time, teaching science and interacting with kids in that way, and pretty much doing an older, mature Spider-Man. Because up until now, the whole point of doing the reboots originally with Andrew Garfield is they wanted to go after the Twilight crowd, which the Twilight crowd is a majority of women. So I don't understand why you want to go after that necessarily when Spider-Man was geared more towards men. But you know what? We have to be more inclusive nowadays. It is 2014.
Well, if they want to be more inclusive,
make a movie that doesn't suck is step one.
Make a movie that doesn't suck and put a lead in that we actually want to watch on screen.
Yeah, I was watching the honest trailers for Amazing Spider-Man, and it was freaking hilarious. Look at this well-adjusted, good-looking, vastly intelligent, highly popular misfit that doesn't fit in with anybody. It's like, when you really think about like how Andrew Garfield plays him, it makes no sense that he's an outcast. Because he's got the movie star everything. It makes no sense. Tobey Maguire was at least convincingly a nerd. This guy wasn't. They were trying to go for the more dark skater punk goth look, and it just didn't work. I'm sorry, it just didn't. Who's also happens to be a genius. But anyway, I digress. We don't want to get into the whole Amazing Spider-Man thing. But basically one of the conversations is now, well, rather than make Amazing Spider-Man 3, maybe we can reboot and do a whole new trilogy. So then they get into the conversation of what storylines they want to do. And this is one of the longer emails. I'm going to skip this one, but they mentioned pretty much doing the one with Kraven, where Kraven becomes Spider-Man for a short period of time. Then they talk about making him an adult. And then they skip to another one where they start talking about possible directors for who they'd want to do if they did a brand new trilogy. And there's tons of names on here, but the most interesting ones are Chris Buck and Jennifer Lea from Frozen, Glenn Ficarra and John Ricwa from Crazy Stupid Love, And who's the other one? David Yates of Harry Potter fame. So pretty much people that have nothing to do with any kind of real action film. I'm sorry, folks. Harry Potter was not a real action film. It was a snooze fest, especially the last fucking movie. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news there, but it really did suck, especially if you're a fan of the book. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation for another day. So the article goes on to describe about what possibilities they could do if they wanted to reboot. So right now, Sony, we're getting a picture that Sony is very unsure of what to do with Spider-Man. So let me go to the next article. Oh, this one we already talked about. This one talks about suspending the payment in all the current movie franchises that are going on right now because of the leaked information. And then it happens to mention the Spider-Man news as part of it. The last article that we're going to talk about with this whole Spider-Man thing, this one also comes from Screen Rant. And basically, if you're going to reboot Spider-Man a third time, what happens to your lead that you currently have under contract for a third movie? Basically, they're looking to fire Andrew Garfield. Is Andrew Garfield already out as Spider-Man? And they go on to talk about all these different dickhead things that Andrew Garfield's been doing behind the scenes at Sony Pictures. Ditching out on studio heads, talking about how the people interacting with the movie, the higher-ups and the production crew was going ahead and screwing around with how, not the production crew, but the producers and the executives at Sony were screwing around with the movie that was being made. They demanded changes being made. That's why the movie sucked, is because, they were interfering too much, which is similar criticism that Sam Raimi gave for the third Spider-Man movie. They pretty much forced him to do Venom. And he didn't want to do Venom. Venom was not an interesting character to him. But because the studio said jump, he had to say, is this high enough, sir? And Andrew Garfield is blaming the studio for the fact that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was not successful. Well, you can imagine how well that went over their heads. And you can just imagine that conversation. You know what? We fired Tobey Maguire, who was doing a better job than you, so we'll get rid of you too. We don't care that we're making millions off you. Or that you're probably one of the bright spots, one of the things that hasn't gotten mocked by all the people that review the movies. And then they go ahead and talk about the whole concept of giving Marvel some of the rights back to the Spider-Man universe. Now, currently, it's been reported that the talks fell through. So there's nothing officially right now happening between the two of them, but they are still talking. The long and short of it is Sony Pictures has no idea what they're doing with Spider-Man. They don't know what to do with him. They don't want to make Amazing Spider-Man 3. They really don't want Andrew Garfield to stay, although they're not against keeping him if worst case scenario. They can still do the third movie because they still own the rights as long as they keep making Spider-Man movies. And the fact that they're having this Spidey summit, not only to talk about giving power to the man by biting him, they're also going to go ahead and talk about whether or not they should go ahead and follow through with a Sinister Six and a Venom movie. What? You are grinning.
I was asked to just post the pictures of my little Varyar to Twitter, so it'll be showing up in a minute.
All right, go ahead. What your Twitter or the Ghost in the Podcast Twitter?
My Twitter.
Give them your tweeter, so listeners can go there.
Oh, I am on the Twitter at Baroness Vigosu.
We will have to add that to our channel here.
I'm actually surprised you didn't. Anyway, but I have some ideas for how they can reboot the Spider-Man too.
Okay, let's hear your ideas.
Sock puppets.
Sock puppets.
Go in a completely different direction. I like your idea about, him being a mature adult. Do it with sock puppets.
Hello, Mary Jane. I'm here to rescue you. Ha, 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 wah.
That would have been more awesome if he were wearing the... Mr. Potato
He is awesome. He's a tiger.
We have the...
He wants my beer.
We have the... They can't see that because your beer's under the thing there.
Give me that.
We're having way too much fun with this camera.
I am not going to answer why I have a little tiger either.
That really just happened. Wow.
Yes, it did.
Wow.
So yeah, this would basically be your
I
idea.
completely lost my train of thought now. Thank you.
Your sock puppet Spider-Man.
Tigers caressing my cheek.
And peeing on you. Hey, that's how the animal kingdom shows possession. And possession is 9/10 of the law. So urinating on things is 9/10 of the law. See, he's nodding. He agrees.
And you're totally okay with your wife being, claimed by a tiger.
I'm not going to fight a tiger.
All right.
Not going there with that fight.
Fantastic.
Anyway.
What were we even talking about?
We were talking about Spider-Man sock puppets.
Yes. Go in a completely different direction with it. Get people to be interested. I like the idea of being a mature Spider-Man, you know, having kids and teaching whatever, but in sock puppets. And then the added bonus is if you have problems with your actors, it doesn't matter because you won't have to refilm anything because it's just sock puppets.
Missing is saying you are weird, Baron. No shit, you're just figuring this out. Missing, you've been around like one of the longest listeners of everybody. Yes, I'm fucking weird, and I'll take that drink and give you a point for that. But I am fucking weird.
See, people think that we were just making things up as we were, you know, doing the audio cast, but no, this shit really goes on every single week.
Fabi's saying that Baron was saying earlier that he was talking about what a good wife you are and how much you do for him, and now he won't even fight a tiger.
Oh, you make a good point. Point for Vampy.
All right, show of hands, ladies and gentlemen. Who would honestly fight a tiger for their significant other, especially when they have no weapons?
Write down Vampy's point. Do it.
Vampy doesn't get a point.
Vampy gets a point.
She does not.
This is exactly what happened last time, and she got 2 points because you got kickback.
I took one away when you weren't
Write
watching.
down the point.
All right, I am writing down that Vampy gets a point. In imaginary ink. Oh, burn! My laptop just died.
Vampy's gonna get it. Well, good. You know what? The ghost is sick of your BS.
The goat. That makes no sense.
Did you ever notice how every time we get into an argument where I'm right and you're wrong, and you just won't admit it, that something goes wrong with your technology? My laptop is working just
Do
fine.
you agree with her? I don't agree with her either. Go pee on her. Oh, I can hear our listenership plunging right now. What the hell's going on in this show?
I'm actually surprised that IRC doesn't have a betting pool going yet as to how long it'll be before the divorce papers are shown on the webcam.
I'm surprised you haven't hit me yet. We made it what is an hour and 11 minutes without any violence. I'm surprised.
We came close.
Double L for more manliness and the glare. Missing says he would find a way to fight it without taking damage. Yeah, only if you roll a critical 20.
I could do that.
And unfortunately, you can't fight a tiger with rolling dice. Unless it is one big set of dice.
Oh, but you know what? You were talking about setting up a tabletop game, and that definitely needs to be in it now.
It was Warhammer.
Were you fight? No, you were talking about doing like a D&D type campaign that wasn't D&D universe. It was a
For my clients?
certain different universe. Well, you were talking about that too.
And for my clients, for some of them, I'm doing that as a skill building thing.
Yeah.
To work on socialization skills and problem solving.
We were talking about a different universe that would be excellent in a D&D type campaign situation.
I am drawing a blank on this.
I know you are.
I know you have a lot of mine.
See, this is what happens when you don't pay attention to your wife.
What?
See? All right. We're kind of derailing now.
Kinda? that ship sailed, honey. We are definitely derailed, but let's go back. So anyway, yeah, pretty much they don't know what the hell to do with Spider-Man, so don't expect anything really exciting until the Spidey Summit ends. And hopefully we'll have some reports next week on what happened at the Spidey Summit. In fact, I have some ideas for that already. Spidey Summits reporting. I wonder if we could go on location and film something and be able to broadcast it over Twitch. I wonder if there's a way we could do that.
Ooh, I think we have to read the manual.
All right, BioEdge, we're going to have a conversation when the show's over about how to do that. And I can just imagine them now going, damn it.
Breaking news. Hack says you're actually tied for #1 English language talk show on Twitch. You're damn right.
Woo! That's right, #1, bitches! We rule! High five. That sucked. Let's do a good one. There we go. That's better. #1! Woo! Not #2, #1. What? What? Controversy.
You know, what's really really fun is this is just our first show with the camera, and we didn't even plan anything. We just wanted to make sure it would work.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we did. In fact, the pre-show, I asked Bio, I'm like, so how do I put my intro music in? Because Daniel Tidwell, who does a lot of great video game covers, gave us permission to use one of his songs, the same song we've been using for our intro music, to use it for this one.
He's a pretty cool guy. I like him.
And then Bio's like, well, yeah, we can try some things. You got some time to jump on Twitch. I'm like, dude, it's a half hour to showtime.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I figured everything, like the audio settings on my own. I'm not fucking with anything right now. Let's just ride this one out and see how it goes. So yeah, we didn't plan shit because we weren't sure this was going to work. I'm also very glad we upped our internet speed because I don't think this would work. I haven't dropped a frame yet. This has been great.
It was just so frustrating because we were both trying to, because I was working downstairs. You aren't allowed downstairs right now. I'm just going to leave that one ride for a little bit.
I'm not allowed downstairs.
But
I've been banned.
We were both trying to stream Edge's Blender video last night, and it was just so frustrating because it's like he was getting like really into these conversations. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then both of us, and I heard you upstairs because it went at the same time. Just like stop to buffer every other minute. It's like, ah. So I was like, this is just not going to happen.
And I love this because I was afraid to mention upgrading the internet speeds. I didn't think you'd go for it.
I don't know how many times we have talked about this.
We talked about it, but we didn't talk about going to the fastest freaking one they had.
I told you to go online and order what we needed, and you
okay, but
you were hedging
in wife speak,
but you were hedging because you saw the price, and I'm like, but it doesn't matter because.
Right, but in wife speak, when you say I don't care if you do something, that usually means you care a whole hell of a lot if I do it.
I mean,
it's okay you don't buy me a gift for Christmas. Guess how that's going to end if I don't. All right, you'll yank my sack off like a paper towel. And then I'll find them on the Christmas tree the next day with little hooks through them because you just didn't punish me enough by ripping them off. So yeah, I'm not falling for that one, okay? I've seen enough sitcoms to know that never ends well. Why are you laughing? Everything we learned about life came from sitcoms. Especially about how life actually really isn't. That's what we really learned.
We are like a sitcom. We have become the sitcom of Rivalcast. Damn it.
Epic Lurker says, Mr. Barron, the judge has awarded you 100% of the spiders, but the ghost sided with her. Screw you, Epic. You're another guy who hasn't cashed in your friggin' Let's Play thing yet.
Oh my God.
Missing's like, Barron, please, we don't need the image. I'll give you an image you don't want. It's like, get rid of Spew! Spew alert! I got her to spew! Woo! All over her computer! Yeah!
No.
Spew alert! Woo!
I caught myself just in time.
That's what we need to add. The Baroness spew alert.
You, sir, are an asshole.
I am a danger to both the dead and the living, or what I like to think of, master of my own destiny. Woo! Spewage alert, bitch! Yeah! Cue's a studio laugh track. That's what we need. We need to get a studio laugh track. That'll be our sounder.
No, because you'd make it sound like that creepy Elmo voice that Bio does. Stop that. No. Stop it.
Oh, that's another thing. I can finally put to rest the fact that people think that I use a voice changer. For all my real little voices. See, This is proof that I don't actually use a friggin' voice changer because I don't need one. I am just this awesome on my own, so... And for those of you that like those entertaining voices, you get another reason to watch the Baron Bust Let's Play because Bat-Orc, who's this guy, and Meatwad, who's me, join me on the go ahead and playing Alien Isolation. So
I really can't wait until
people love it.
The story arc is done so we can actually all get together and do. Because you
can mail it to people. You can email it to people. Just email them the scripts. They record it and email. That's what we did for a radio play.
No, I have to finish writing the story before we can script it out.
Gotcha. So we want to do the whole thing from the beginning.
Yeah, I think it would be easier that way.
That's fine.
And just split it.
That's fine.
Because you don't actually show up except peripherally.
Yeah, I've noticed. Why did you write me out of the story?
Because you're at GameStop all the time.
I'm not at GameStop all the time. I work 1 day a week there.
No, well, remember, fiction is fiction.
Exactly. Why are you afraid of how to portray me? Because you got my strong opinions on my couch correctly.
I kind of.
Although I would not have let Vampy on there either because of the way she's been mocking me all night. She would have lost couch privileges by now. I'd give him the edge though, at least for a little while. So why not me? Why am I left out?
Because I need you.
Why do you hate me so much?
I need you to do all of the non.
You know what? Next week, I think I'm going to move my Kurt Cobain poster over here and light candles while live on the show, so people can know the manifestation of my depression. Oh my God, Barron's seriously low this day. Look at him.
You were supposed.
He's all mopey.
There's no getting out of this one.
Baby's like, because I needed a couch to sleep on, and since you are always there, stay the hell away from my couch. Anyway.
Wait a minute. That could be taken in a couple of different ways there, Vampy. If he's always on the couch and you needed a couch to sleep on, it's a good thing we're friends. That's all I gotta say.
And thinking better of that next comment, we're just going to move on here.
Yes.
All right. Hey, look at this. There's more topics to discuss. Yay.
Wow, it's 6:20 already.
That was really hard not to mention what I was thinking either. All right. So, Baroness, I'll give you the option here. We can go to the Godzilla news. We can go to the DLC download content for a couple new games, or we can talk about Scream, or we can talk about something else entirely as you get up and leave. You're choosing Godzilla news.
I don't know if they can actually see it.
We'll go to the camera. Oh, he knocked the glasses off. Look, now he's mocking him by putting the glasses on.
Off.
Let's go. Ah! Stop. That hurts. It's pointy.
That does. I just scraped myself on his little spike.
Yeah, this guy, don't feel sorry for you. Catch. God. Oh,
So
I like it. The glasses get knocked off and shit gets real.
What were you saying about Godzilla?
Oh, fuck if I know. Oh, my God. Our maturity is showing, or lack thereof. What kind of weird artifacts around the house can we bring on there? You can see my cat clock hanging up there. All right. So let's move back on. This, ladies and gentlemen, says Killer McCoy, is how they start their sex. At least from having sex, Killer McCoy.
I have a feeling that Cards Against Humanity later tonight is going to not be killer related. And the wheel keeps it turning.
And Epic Lurker says, remember, folks, they are adults. That's right, we're number one. Well, we're tied for number one. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Close that. I don't want to see that. Nothing, we're fine.
Stop.
It's not like I ended the stream or anything, although that people would probably be happy if we did. All right. So we're going to talk Godzilla. So this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter, and the title is Japan's Toho to produce a new Godzilla movie for 2016, first time in 12 years. Do you have this article up?
No.
All right, I was going to let you read this one, but all right, I'll read it. Japan's Toho is to produce its first Godzilla film since 2004. Following the success of this year's release from Legendary Pictures, the studio behind the original monster movie announced Monday, quote, "This is very good timing after the success of the American version of this year. If not now, then when? The licensing contract we have with Legendary places no restrictions on us making domestic versions," a Toho staffer told The Hollywood Reporter. And then it goes on to talk about how the American version grossed over $500 million and so on and so forth. So there's not any announcement as to what the story is going to be or what it's going to be involved about or who he's going to fight. But Toho is going to do their own Godzilla movie. And I think that seeing the success of the American version is probably a little fire under them, saying that there's still some life to be breathed back into this franchise after
I
all.
was still so disappointed with the American one.
I was.
We're talking about the one that we went to the drive-in to
Yes,
see, right?
yes.
Yeah,
There were parts of it I was disappointed with, but it was still a good movie
I like
overall.
the Godzilla parts, but like half the movie wasn't. Actually, the majority of the movie wasn't Godzilla. It was just.
Yeah, he didn't show up till halfway through.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he just shows up in the ocean and they're just aware of him. Like, oh, let's just follow him. Let's see where he goes.
The idea for the story was solid, but the writing was atrocious. I think I should be allowed to go back and just like, we'll go back, we'll delete all of those copies and just reissue it in, the Baroness version, which would be much more awesome.
Have you ever noticed, though, with monster movies, and I'm even referring to some slasher films because my dad always calls those monster movies.
Yeah.
How when you have an established franchise and an established franchise monster, that the human characters are always poorly written, poorly represented, and don't die off quickly enough. Like that is
Except Bryan Cranston.
except Bryan Cranston, right?
Yeah.
The guy that they marketed the whole movie around.
Yeah.
who was the only entertaining actor in the entire freaking movie.
Who died like, what, 8 minutes into the film?
Yep.
Something like that. Like, really?
And they passed off to the guy that only has one face of emotion. And they do that for every single freaking monster movie that comes out. And yeah, I understand, the whole allure of Godzilla is to put Godzilla in it. Well, first off, you don't have him show up until halfway through the movie anyway. And even then, when he starts finally terrorizing his city or he starts fighting, they cut away to show it on the fucking news break. And then there's this little kid who's picking his nose like this, watching TV going, oh, wow, look at that.
I mean,
I'm sorry, but it would blow my fucking mind to look at a friggin' news channel and see a giant monster smashing buildings that's in real life.
And again, the idea was good. It's just how they fleshed it out was atrocious. And
Absolutely.
That's what killed that movie for me, because it could have been so much better than it was if they had better people actually writing the dialogue. And I'm not even going to throw it on the actors, because I think the actors did a fairly decent job. I mean, it wasn't fantastic, but there's only so much you can do with that kind of dialogue. It's like,
yeah, but at least attempt it. I mean, and Bryan Cranston, to his credit, and his wife's credit, who also died early on in the film, at least they tried. They didn't have much to work with, but they did the most they could from it, which is what veteran actors and actresses know how to do. But when you get a younger crowd that you're playing to, and a guy whose English is not his first language, and I would argue is probably not his second either, and Ken Watanabe, who did a respectable job for what he was given, I mean, you still expect more from that. All the time we always talk about, it's like in sports. Well, so-and-so should have played better, and so-and-so should have done this. Well, an actor should know how to get more stuff out of what they're given as well. Now, maybe you're right. Maybe they really couldn't. Maybe they're not good enough. Maybe they're not experienced enough. And all that may be true. But I still expect Godzilla, when we reviewed it on this show, my thought was it's a good movie, but there was a great movie lying underneath if they just had gone a little bit further with it. Everything about a Godzilla movie that people love is him smashing shit. Don't cut away from that. Don't do these long distance views of these buildings crumbling and things on fire after the monster's already moved on to this next location. People want to see him smash shit. And Gareth Edwards was talking about in his interview, well, we don't want people to get tired of Godzilla. They're not going to get tired of Godzilla. We've been dying for freaking Godzilla. We want more of the guy. We don't want less.
oh, and when the shots that they did do of Godzilla were fantastic.
They were, and so were the shots of the city. The details and the cinematography and the CGI effects were fan-freaking-tastic and spot on. They deserve a lot of credit for that. There just wasn't enough of it. I want to see more Godzilla. I want to see him actually go through a building. I want to see him bitch slap a building down to size by backhanding it all across the friggin' map. I want to see that shit. I don't want to see him standing in the middle of a street yelling as one of the Mutos is flying towards him. Somebody's staring and watching this out the window of a skyscraper, and then suddenly cut to a TV viewing of this whole small fight scene, and then suddenly we're 3 towns over where the monsters somehow managed to get separated with a very loose dialogue to explain how the fuck it happened. I don't want to see that. Give me a knockdown, drag out fight. You know what was a really good Godzilla movie? Destroy All Monsters. You know why? Because the monsters actually destroyed shit. And they did it while the movie was actually playing. It wasn't, we're just going to talk about it with a rough description after the fact. No! We're going to throw it right at you. You're going to see a lot of it. It's like these post-apocalyptic movies, like fucking Reign of Terror, when the dragons come and they start destroying everything. No, we're going to go ahead and market this as like these dragons are going to fly around destroying shit. But no, when you actually watch the movie, it's like 500 years later, after the dragons have already melted everything down, and these poor little bands of survivors, led by a bald Matthew McConaughey, who couldn't act his way out of a paper bag in that movie, usually is pretty good, leading this fucking charge, and then Christian Bale doing his best Batman with an English accent impression. It just sucked. We want to see destruction. Ronald Emmerich at least got that part right. Let's show Godzilla blow some shit up. He just fucked up everything else there is to know about Godzilla. Gareth Edwards got everything else right and just fucked up destroying things. People want to see destruction. That is the allure of a giant monster movie. A bunch of guys in rubber suits beating the shit out of each other in their sets. Or in this case, a bunch of CGI monsters beating the shit out of other CGI monsters while destroying a bunch of shit. That's what people want to see. That is a monster movie that people will pay for and will love. This movie was good, but it could have been great, and it should have been great, and they owed us great. Not just an apology for the 1998 shitfest that we still have to live with to this day, but because they had the chance to do something great and didn't pull the trigger. And now Toho, enjoying the success of the American version, is now going to try to make a Japanese version, and they're probably more in tune with what made Godzilla awesome in the first place, considering they're the ones that made it. And it's kind of hard to fuck it up when you're the creator. It happens, but not as often. That was my bitch about Godzilla. And I'm excited that Toho's going to do their own. And then 2 years followed by American version. So every couple years, we're going to get a Godzilla movie where it's blowing shit up. That's exciting. My only question is Toho going to do the guy in the rubber suit, or are they going to do the CGI? Because I don't think you're going to be able to, unless they're going to go and put the kind of money into it that Legendary Pictures did, they're not going to be able to pull off a really interesting CGI Godzilla. They did that a little bit with Godzilla, what was it, 2000? What was the one where they had the American Godzilla show up and then like died in like a 3-minute fight with real Godzilla? Was it Final Wars?
I don't remember.
I don't remember, but that was CGI
about.
And it was awful. It was terrible. Oh, they're telling people what they've missed. Mostly me peeing on you with a hand puppet. But anyway. Mailing Stuff says, I actually watched Godzilla while on a plane. The face the person next to me made during the scene was priceless. During the airport scene was priceless. That's funny. A Missing Pony says, I think I'm just posting too rapidly in IRC. Well, that might be. Anyway. That was my bitch with Godzilla. I want to see him blow shit up. And Toho knows how to blow shit up. So we'll see. All right. It is 6:30 and we've got, what, 2 or 3 more topics left? No, 3 topics left. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the video game stuff. I know you're not as up to date on this one. Is there anything you want to talk about first? Any ghost gossip stuff at all?
There's no ghost gossip this week.
No ghost gossip this week. Stay tuned next week as we have more gossip topics.
Maybe, maybe not. Ghost gossip is just like when we do ghost hunts. Sometimes we get things, sometimes we don't. And right now, there's not a whole lot of drama going on behind the scenes in, Ghosty Land.
And we are still working on our DVD.
Public enough for us to...
Yeah, that's true. I suppose going back in time and talking about old shit, it's kind of over with and done.
Lame-o. So, yeah.
All right. So here's a couple.
We're just relevant here. We are timely. We are relevant.
And we are awesome. Awesome.
We have standards. So, yes, continue on.
All right. So let's talk about some DLC content that is coming out for a couple games. Actually, before we get into the DLC content, here's interesting news. This also has to do with the 2 games I want to talk about. All right, so for those of you that have listened to the older shows, you guys know that I reviewed Evil Within a little while ago. The new horror game, or not new horror game, but it was at the time when it came out in October. That was by the guy who did Resident Evil 4. It's his latest, greatest game since then. I had a lot of unkind things to say about the game when I first reviewed it. A bunch of listeners sent some emails afterwards calling me out on that because I reviewed the game based on the first 10 minutes that I played. And I was so frustrated and so upset by what I was seeing, turned the game off and didn't go back to it.
It was a good article that you wrote. Yeah, if anyone hasn't read the article, it's posted up on the main page, rivalcastmedia.com. We have all of our other articles are up there as well.
I was getting to that.
Oh, sorry. Well, I'm sorry. You did a fantastic job with it. And
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Anytime that you can admit you're wrong and state it publicly and pander to the crowd as you did in your
It's a good day for you, right?
You did in a tasteful way, and I'm proud of you. You've grown as a person.
Fuck that. Anyway, yes, I did an article after I got challenged on it. Some people really said, you know what, you need to go back and play it again. You need to stick with it past the first 10 minutes and see if you like it. So I did. And I played through the first 5 chapters. I think there's like 14 or 15 total in the game. And I ended up loving it. And I wrote an article that talks a little bit about it. My apology for reviewing it and rushing to haste it and all that detail, which Baroness was talking about. That's on the Rivalcast Media website. Go ahead and check it out. The reason I bring it up is because The Evil Within is actually one of the games we're going to be talking about here first and foremost. Now, this is an interesting one this article came from Cineblend. And it's actually about how to do cheat codes for The Evil Within. Now, I am unable to do this because the Evil Within version I have is the PlayStation 4. The cheat codes they list here is something that you can do for the PC version. So for those of you that are playing the game on PC, this is really for you guys. So first and foremost, what do you do? Well, The Evil Within is locked in at 30 frames per second on the PC. However, you can change that through one of the game's many cheat codes. Here's how to access it. So follow along with this. I also posted the link in the chat right now. So if you're listening live, that's how you'll get it. For those of you that are not listening live, I'm going to tell you how to get it right now. All right. So this is what you do. You can access the Horror Games cheats by enabling the debug console. How to do that is you right-click on the Evil Within in your Steam library. So if you got it through Steam, right-click it in your Steam library. Then select Properties. In the General tab of that window, select Set Launch Options. Once you're there, enter the following line without the quotation marks. Plus COM underscore ALLOW console 1. Console space 1. Don't actually type in space, just hit a space. After that, you're ready to launch the game. At any time, you can press the insert key to open up the developer console. These are the codes that you can use according to Bethesda. So this is actually being published by the game company behind the game. All right, and here's a couple ones. You can do you can set the frame per second. Then what you do is you hit capital R underscore slop interval. SWAPINTERVAL.
Why are you reading this off instead of just reading off where the article is?
Because this is more fun. And you can go all the way up. You can set the limit all the way up to 60 frames per second. Then there's God mode. You just type in God. No clip to walk through walls. G underscore infinite ammo, which gives you unlimited ammo. And then the couple other ones here really aren't as exciting. Oh, slow down time. You can go ahead and type in starts slow motion 2, and that'll actually everything will be slow.
Does it work for real life too?
I wish. Wouldn't it be interesting if life did have like cheat codes you could put in, other than being rich?
Yeah, it really would.
Somehow find like the insert key of life and type in your own codes.
I'm thinking about our House of Rivalcast demos. Yeah, I wish.
We'll get there. All right, and one last thing is Bethesda does warn that if you do start messing around, especially with the frames per second hack, you could go ahead and crash the game. They do not support all those changes. They only designed the game to go up to 30 frames per second. So if you mess around with it, you might have some issues, and then you're on your own because they don't know how to fix it. All right, the next article is the Evil Within DLC. The assignment has been announced. Now, according to this, there's going to be 3 DLC that are going to come out for the Evil Within. They are going to be story-based to actually explain the story, which thank friggin' God, because the story makes no fucking sense at all. All right, a little bit of a spoiler here. Here's the storyline as I understand it. So in this mental asylum, they create this ability to go inside people's minds.
Right.
And create these worlds inside people's minds.
Because that's exactly what you want to do with someone who's crazy.
Well, the idea is that way you can make them sane again. Unfortunately, one of the guys goes insane and starts putting people inside his own mind, which is what happens to your protagonist. So basically, everything that's going on, you're inside some crazy dude's mind. And you're trying to figure out a way to get out. That's the plot. Which is somewhat interesting if it made any freaking sense. So supposedly, the new DLC content is going to go into detail about what the story is going to be. The first one is going to focus on, what's her character? Julie Kidman. I'll call the assignment, and it's going to go ahead and give a little bit of detail. I'm going to go ahead and read the little quote here. Early on, we listed the things that we wanted to answer and ones we wanted to keep open and worked around, and we definitely want to leave some of the mysteries open. But I feel we shed a lot of sight on the lore of Ruvik. Ruvik's the guy who's behind pretty much all the horrible things. Also about STEM and the characters while asking and answering a whole new set of questions regarding Julie and her mission. So basically, they're going to do like a whole Lost thing. They're going to answer some questions, leave it open, and frustrate a whole lot of people because they're still not going to resolve things by the time this bitch is over. But read my article. You'll find out why I like the game, why there's still a lot of good merits and good things to be found in it. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being it's freaking awesome, 1 being, oh my God, don't even make eye contact with it, piss on it at every opportunity, I'd say the game's a solid 8. 7.5, 8, somewhere in that range, but I'd say 8. It's more of an experience than it is anything else, and horror games are made to be experienced, so check it out. All right, the other little information on DLC that we're going to get into is Alien Isolation gets an upgrade.
Ooh.
So this one comes from blooddisgusting.com. Now, this is very interesting, and Biomed and Shinzone, I know this is really going to interest you guys because you guys are really big into this game as well. The article pretty much says that what they're doing is they added 2 new difficulty modes in the latest update, a novice mode and a nightmare mode.
Oh, God.
Now, novice mode is pretty much self-explanatory. You're new to the game. You know, you want to learn how to play it. And Alien Isolation is a brutal game. So is Evil Within.
Isn't this the one that you do for your Let's Plays on
Yes,
Thursday
this is
night?
what I've been doing. Baron Busts is Alien Isolation.
So when you get the upgrades, are you going to switch to novice mode so that the alien isn't kicking your ass every night?
And now, Vampy, remember before how you're talking about how I talk about how supportive my wife is and how much I love my wife and how great I think she is? Then she does shit like this.
I'm being supportive right
Oh,
now.
honey, you're getting your ass kicked. Why don't you try an easier mode? That's not supportive, wench. There's a reason why you were relegated to get me beer until recently. Supportive my ass. And now you guys wonder why I pee on her with hand puppets. This is why. I want to punch something. Where's the baby?
Oh, we forgot about the baby.
Give me the baby.
The baby's under the table.
Give me the baby. Now, woman. See, baby. Fucking baby. Why are you laughing? You know why I punch children? To deal with my anger with you. You're the reason I just punched that child, woman.
Oh my god. We need to get wheels on this chair.
I can't keep a straight face anymore.
No,
You see how I knocked over the pen cup?
That's what
That
I'm
was
laughing
awesome.
at. I mean, you couldn't have planned that better.
We have our table that we used to do our show on across the way here, and I had a pen cup sitting on it with probably 20 or so different pens. And when I punched the little baby thing and knocked it all over and sent all the pens flying everywhere, it was great.
Right there.
I'd never be able to replicate that shot if I tried. All right, well, Baroness cleans up my mess, doing her wifely duties as she flicks me off. You guys missed that part. Basically, the most interesting part of this isn't the novice mode; it's the nightmare mode. As Baroness shows you the baby.
You know it's Baron's because it has the beard.
Also, because there's a bunch of dents in it.
He's wearing whimpers.
Whimpers. Why are you bringing it back over here? It's punished. It's in timeout. You bring it over here, I gotta punch it again.
Do anything.
It's a baby. It does everything. It whines. It cries. It pees.
I'm gonna put it behind the webcam so you can see it.
Putting it behind the webcam. All right, folks. This is why we need a 3D webcam. I missed. How did I miss? I need something else to throw. Suck it, baby.
I'm surprised you didn't hit the
I
camera.
can't believe I missed. That's why we need a 3D camera, folks. I don't even want to know what IRC's saying right
going
now.
crazy.
This is why you need to be here for the live show, ladies and gentlemen. I kind of feel bad for the podcasters down. I'm not going to see me punch the baby. All right, anyway, nightmare mode with Alien Isolation. It really is a nightmare because it breaks your motion tracker, so your motion tracker doesn't even work. So you have no motion tracker. You can't see where the alien goes. You're pretty much guessing. It removes all the maps, and it makes the enemies much more deadly, and it limits supplies even more. So it really is a friggin' nightmare mode, which if you think about it, is probably more realistic than anything else the game has offered so far, if you're actually in the situation. So I recommend if you're going to play nightmare mode, have a good idea of where the maps, make sure you've played the game enough. It's a good thing that it makes you repeat where you're walking all the time, so you already have a good idea of where you're going. Excuse me. So it's worth checking out. So Biomed, since you've already beaten the game, since you're not relegated to doing this for a Let's Play, you need to try Nightmare Mode. Let me know what you think. Or you need to go IRC and find out what they're saying.
They're saying that the baby wasn't showing up with the IR camera, so I have.
Dude, Baroness, middle class white male American. Thanks God, says Warrior. Vampy says, no, that's the truth. And well, sometimes the truth hurts. Yeah, and that truth just hurt that baby's face. So there you go. Virus says, Baron, I know that bike is tricky. Why don't we get you training wheels? Look at that. Plus 10 points for the show for punching a baby. Killer McCoy, you get a point for that. Unfortunately, you might lose out because I threw my pen. So I have no, oh, here we go. I found another one.
Oh, you can't have mine, so screw you.
This one's got that little... There we go. I don't know. Why do pens come with these little rubber condom things now so you can't write with it until you rip it off?
So it doesn't leak and explode.
So just like a real condom. What?
Wow.
It's true.
Just wow.
It's true.
Just wow.
Whatever. I don't feel the need to explain my art to you. So anyway. Shinzon asks, where did the baby land? It landed right in front of my fireplace, actually. And it's lucky it wasn't turned on. It does, look, it's not as careless as it seems, because a real baby would have cried before it would have burst into flames. So it's okay. It's okay. Virus like Jesus, that derailed quickly. Welcome to the Ghost in the Podcast. For those of you that are new, I'm not looking at the Twitch stream, so I have no idea how many people are watching right now. But yes, I am punching children, punching babies of the cardboard variety. So before anybody starts, getting any ideas. Probably gonna get some nasty emails. How dare you promote violence to children? Because nobody realized it's a fucking cardboard box.
I love Missing's comment. Usually I don't hear guys yell, "Give me a baby now, woman." Usually it's the opposite.
Take the baby away from me, woman. Here, you raise it, you take care of it. I'm going out with the guys.
That looks nothing like me. Yeah. Oh, all right.
All right. What time is it? 6:44. Okay, we got time. Yeah, that really did derail quickly. And I'm out of beer.
Well, if you'd have been nicer to me earlier, I might have, offered to get up for a second.
Well, then the drinking game ends because, as you pointed out, I can't get up because I don't have pants on. Unless you want Big Baron waving everybody.
Point set match.
Thank you. See, folks, there are more benefits to not wearing pants. Anyway, so let's look ahead to the horror games of 2015. Yay! Because I want to do this for the last couple of weeks. And then we'll end with the Scream conversation. Also, something else about Wes Craven I want to talk about, too. So those two will go together. So looking ahead to the horror games of 2015, this comes courtesy of blooddisgusting.com. Once again, I'll go ahead and post the link right up here. Once I figure out where my IRC went. There it is. Missing is asking what's next. More baby punching? No more baby punching. Do I have to dance for this?
I was going to get you the shittiest beer in our fridge, but then I realized that we don't buy shitty beer. So.
See? Exactly.
What did I get you, actually? Oh, it's
another Canoe Paddler.
It's the same one.
All right. Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, to evil.
No 1 point to Baron. No. No, Shinzon.
Baron gets a point.
No. You're writing that down, but you wouldn't give Vampy her point earlier.
I gave Vampy a point. She's right here.
All right.
I can make a really bad playing with himself joke on Baron Busts. Baron Busts playing with himself. I can't even finish. See, you're not from Cleveland. Do you know the Big Chuck and Little John show that used to be on?
No.
The comedy show. And
No.
the Big Chuck and Little... Remind me to play that. I'll play you the Big Chuck and Little John laugh. Varyar might know what I'm talking about because he's from Ohio. There are these Cleveland comedians, and they used to have for years, they would do, in addition to their usual show, they would do a late night, like they'd watch a horror movie, and then they'd cut to a studio where they're interacting with studio audience and these little skits. And every time at the end of the shift, they had like this really ridiculous laugh that would kind of tell you the joke is over, and I'll have to play it for you. It's really good.
Okay.
You'll see. Hey, don't put words behind my screen name. I didn't say more baby punching, says Missing. That was Shinzone who gave me the point. More baby punching. The baby's not going anywhere. It lives here. And more fists aplenty will find its face. Anyway, so looking ahead to the horror games of 2015. First and foremost is Bloodborne. This one is, if you don't mind being broken down over and over again by a game with a thoroughly unforgiving nature. Gee, we're talking about Alien Isolation, Evil Within, and Dark Souls. Then pretty much this is the game for you. So Bloodborne's coming out. That one's supposed to release on February 6th. Call of Cthulhu.
That actually looks interesting.
That looks really interesting. They got some screenshots here. Now, the interesting thing about this one is they've tried for years to make a sequel to the Call of Cthulhu game that came out years ago for the original Xbox and the PC, Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth, which really actually is a good survival horror game. Cthulhu's not in it, though. They have a statue of him. You're fighting Dagon and Hydra.
Well, yeah, if Cthulhu shows up, I mean, you instantly go mad.
He showed up in the book or in the story. Remember, the guy goes out on his boat to the island as Rylaic comes up through the ocean. And Cthulhu wakes up because the cultists have been trying to wake him up, and he goes after the guy, and he's trying to get away in his boat, and Cthulhu's grabbing on it with his tentacles, and it's getting chopped up.
Yeah,
and he somehow miraculously escapes, and Cthulhu somehow the spell's broken, and Cthulhu falls back asleep on his island. It sinks back into the ocean. So he was in the original game, or not the game, but the story. But they have yet to do a game where Cthulhu actually shows up. Now, you're right. You'd instantly go insane, but you could make that, like in the other Call of Cthulhu game, you make that part of the allure of the game. In Dark Corners of the Earth, your character started going insane over a period of time when crazy shit started happening. And they've managed to bring that into a bunch of other games. Amnesia the Dark Descent, Eternal Darkness, which is a friggin' awesome game as well. So the insanity aspect of a game is not new. You could do that very well if you put Cthulhu into the game. Like, if you look at him head on, you start going insane, so you have to look away from him while you're fighting him, which makes fighting him that much more difficult. So anyway, this past January, Mag Runner, Dark Pulse developer Frogwares, revealed their plan to make a new Call of Cthulhu game. Since then, the game has kept unusually quiet. You know what? But that's not uncommon. Anything that has to do with H.P. Lovecraft over the last couple decades has not had a lot of success. I mean, Guillermo del Toro has been trying to do Out in the Mountains of Madness for years, which is in the Cthulhu mythos. Has had no success getting it off the ground because the studios don't want to back it. Other Cthulhu games have failed miserably. They've done a couple of Call of Cthulhu independent films, and my God, were they terrible. One of them starred Tori Spelling, who is a candidate for a Cthulhu look-alike if there ever was one, as hideous as that little chud is. That one has still not been given a release date. DayZ, that one's already been kind of out. I think they've been doing some alpha testing for it or beta testing. So DayZ, it's self-explanatory. It's pretty much a zombie shooter. H1Z1, this one I've heard a little bit of talk about on the forums. Trying to take a bite out of the juicy DayZ pie is H1Z1. It's more or less the same game, so if you like trying to survive the post-apocalyptic wilderness where your fellow man is infinitely scarier than The Walking Dead, there's a solid chance this game won't disappoint. And of course, we got Dying Light later on this list, which is the same exact thing as these two, except you're in an urban setting. So it seems like zombie games are still very much in the limelight, and Dead Island 2 is no exception. This one is getting released in the spring, folks. I'm going to skip over that one because I hated the first game. Doom.
Ooh, he looks pretty boss.
That is probably the demon that has the rocket launcher.
Ooh.
After several delays, Doom is finally coming. We might not have seen it yet, but there's plenty of folks who have. If ID Software's refusal to place it under the scrutinizing eyes of the internet is any indication of its quality, this may end up being a 2016 release. So right now, the date is still to be determined, but they've been talking about Doom for a while. I think they've already had a beta release for it. If I remember right, I think, what game was it? There's a new game that just released that had a beta thing for Doom in it. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. All right, the next one is, I think it's pronounced Draugen, Draugen. The day before Halloween, indie developer Red Thread Games decided to give us something scary to look forward to with Draugen, a survival horror game that feels like Gone Home meets Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It's set on the Norwegian West Coast, so you can be sure it's going to look ridiculously good. I don't know, apparently the Norwegian coast is pretty good to look at.
Oh, it is beautiful.
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen many pictures of it. What?
What was it? They were saying 30% of our listeners are coming from Norway. Really? And you don't take 5 minutes to look and see what their homeland looks like?
No. Do they take 5 minutes to look at what mine looks like?
Obviously they do.
This doesn't count. This is the first time we've done a stream. What? Just because they like speaking English and they like American shows doesn't mean that they're obsessed with what America looks like. Although I've heard in some countries they think we have like streets of gold, which I'd like to know where the hell that is. My street, we have a giant pothole right in front of our freaking driveway.
That's true.
That's taken more than its share of wheels down.
That
so
also is true.
There's not much to go on this game. Pretty much the only picture they have is a goat head on a stick. Or donkey head. No, it's a goat head. Dying Light, which we already mentioned, that one comes out January 27th. The Evil Within: The Assignment, which we already talked about, that comes out early 2015. This one is actually going to make Highlander very excited. Highlander of the Rivalcast fame. He used to be the co-host for this show many moons ago. Fatal Frame 5, The Black-Haired Shrine Maiden. This game bums me out, says the journalist guy. Part of me takes solace knowing that the beloved survival horror franchise isn't being entirely neglected, but most of me is too busy being frustrated to notice. If ever there was a time to release a quality horror game like this in the world, not just Japan, it's now. The only reason this game is on this list is because I hope Nintendo just hasn't gotten around to mentioning an international release date. And that'll release September 27th, 2014 in Japan, so it's already released over there, and possible 2015 over here, but there's no guarantee it's coming. Fatal Frame is a very popular series.
That's Norway.
Oh, wow, it is gorgeous. Look how blue that freaking water is. Mm-hmm. So that's what it's like not to have pollutants in your water. Keep in mind, we come from the town that burned their river 3 times.
It was more than that.
Oh, God, that's gorgeous.
Just 3 major times.
All right, Norway, I apologize. You do have beautiful coastlines.
And fjords.
In fjords. But not flags. Seriously, what were you guys thinking when you designed that thing? I got nothing against Norway, but come on. It's a plus sign. They're a country that's dedicated to math. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, at least make it pie. Everybody likes pie. Whether it's mathematical or the actual food stuff, you really go for some pie.
Pie.
I know, it's pie, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to get some pie after this now. Thank you, Norway. So Fatal Frame 5. Next up is Hellraid. Hellraid is originally announced as on the last gen console release. Techland gave us a substantial reason to be pumped for Hellraid when they confirmed that it had been delayed to give them time to rebuild the game in a new engine for current gen consoles. The new and improved Hellraid brings together the combat of Skyrim with the brutality of Dead Islands, complete with a dark fantasy setting and tons of hellish monsters to battle. All right. Wait. Skyrim meets Dead Island. You know, as a guy who's played both games, gameplay wise, there's not much difference between Skyrim and Dead Island, except in Skyrim, sometimes you have magic. I don't know why you walk around like this all the way through Skyrim. It kind of doesn't make sense. I assume your arms will get tired. But Dead Island, no magic. I don't even think there's not even a lot of firearms. It's mostly bats, canoe paddles, and anything else you can find. That's very misleading. And the screenshot they have here makes it look like an old school Doom. And of course, the guy's got like a trident or some kind of sword that's definitely lightsaber-ish because it's got the little crossbar thing, but it's not a lightsaber. Killing Floor 2. This one's incredibly exciting, especially with all the fun that we've had with Killing Floor and streaming on this channel. Tripwire Interactive hasn't mentioned an ETA for the sequel to their hit cooperative horror game Killing Floor. When I saw it in action last month, it looked like a game that was pretty far along. Good. So, unfortunately, no date yet, but it is supposed to come out next year, and they got some screenshots that look pretty good. Kudoku. Kodoku. Kudoku looks like a series of nightmares that were induced by a particularly bad acid trip. I have no idea what the hell is going on, but I like it. To be announced in 2015. And they've got this weird face thing on a scorpion and this dude that's looks like he's stuck in a bunch of spider legs or something. It looks stupid. Next up is Let It Die. This one looks promising. Despite being a fan of Suda51's wacky work in the worlds he created, oh shit, it's Suda51's. I haven't seen enough to make me enthusiastic about Let It Die. Now, you know what? I have not liked any of the games this guy's done. And I don't think he's funny. I think he's fucking juvenile. Anybody can do a penis joke. I'm sorry. It's not hard. I've been doing them all evening. It's stupid. Go to hell. Resident Evil, the HD reboot, that comes around January 2015. We've already talked about that one. Resident Evil Revelations 2, we've talked about that one. That one released on February 17th. And they're going to release it episodically. Now, this is the one that I am most excited by far. This one I'm having fanboy dreams about. Soma, spelled S-O-M-A. It is by the Amnesia developer Frictional Games. Now, this is one that Frictional is doing themselves. Now, I know Amnesia had a sequel, but they licensed that out to the Chinese room to do. So Frictional Games is back in with this one. And this is the one they've been developing for a few years now. Amnesia developer Frictional Games started teasing their next project, the freaky-looking horror game Soma. Here we are a year later, and the game is significantly less mysterious than it was back then. Even still, I can't help but wonder if we've scratched the surface. You probably haven't. And it's supposed to come out early in 2015. When that game comes out, expect some Let's Plays of that one. I don't care where we are in Alien Isolation. I've been looking forward to a Frictional Games game for a very, very, very fucking long time now. I am extremely excited. We're going to be doing that one guaranteed as a Let's Play. Next up is State of Decay Year 1 Survival Edition. That'll be out in early 2015. The Order 1886. This one's coming out for the PS4 February 20th. This one looks very interesting. And the last but not least is Until Dawn. This is the slasher one. This is going to be coming out alongside that summer camp game that we were talking about a little while ago. And it's a slasher flick in a game mode. And they actually released a pretty interesting interactive trailer for it pretty recently where this girl's trying to get away from it. It looks very interesting. It looks like one of those you have to time things different, like specific times to hide and get away from the killer. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. All right, so we got what? It's 3 minutes to 7 o'clock. Do we want to keep going?
Let's practice keeping on time for a change.
All right, so you want to go ahead and end?
As much as I love it, yeah, we need to practice keeping on time.
Yeah, but this is the last week where we don't have to.
I know.
Because that other show comes back next week.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to make a grand announcement about that or anything.
I don't know if we're going to do a grand announcement, but we're still going to tell people.
Yeah. Do you want to do that?
I mean, it's more of Emperor's thing. He can make the grand announcement. In fact, he already did.
That's true.
Do we want to keep going then, or do we want to call it quits? You think you want to call it quits? Okay.
Yes.
But I don't, so we're going to keep going. Oh, no. We'll go ahead and end. So the only thing we didn't get to this evening is the Scream stuff. And trust me, it's not good news about the Scream franchise. So, I mean, you guys heard enough of me ranting and raving already about Godzilla. So once again, show them your Varyar pony, in case anybody new came in. Varyar, ladies and gentlemen, is the station owner and also the co-host of the Rivalcast, which airs on this network on Fridays. Actually, I think it's going to be Saturdays now. And so we went ahead and made him, or actually...
We went ahead.
Baroness went ahead and made a My Little Pony of him. His little tramp stamp here is booze.
Well, it will be. It's not on there yet.
They can't tell. There's a little dark spot, so it looked like booze. Because he likes drinking as much as I do. See, cheers. All right, unfortunately, Baroness is saying we have to end. And like, a good husband, I go ahead and do what my wife says.
We need to turn the web stream off so I can punch you without evidence.
Punch the baby. That's what we had it for.
I'm not mad at the baby.
The best part is people that like came in here like after all that stuff happened really think that we're going to talk about punching babies now. So punch the baby. It's what we had him for. Go ahead. I don't mind. I already punched him and knocked him across the room.
I know.
And his little bitch whiny ass.
He's just sitting there with his big smile and his googly eyes and the little tiny beard that tells you he's yours.
It's still your fault that I punched him. Still your fault. Alrighty. So I think we're going to go ahead and head out like a fetus this evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everybody who came out to watch this evening on our very first video cast right here on twitch.tv/rivalcast media.
Lysig, you're late. You don't have a chance to say punch the baby.
I thought he was here already. Lysig, weren't you here earlier in the show? I guess not, huh?
I didn't see him.
I thought I saw him, but I could be wrong. All right, so next week, I believe it's next week or the week after, I can't remember. Emperor's Court will be returning. I think he's going to be on Twitch. I haven't really talked to him about what his plans are. But he will be returning next week at 7 o'clock Eastern, probably a little bit after that, depending on how long we go for Overrun. We're usually done within a couple minutes anyway. So he will be back around the 7 time slot. Trying to think if there's any other major news. I don't think so. Oh, so far, Farfield, Doctor Who Livecast, and the WoW Uncensored guys have already made the switch over to Twitch. So has Varyar and Highlander with the Rivalcast. Highlander is supposedly going to be joining Varyar back next week. At least that's his plan. He did make a recent post in the forums on the Rivalcast Media website, rivalcastmedia.com, to go ahead and talk about that. So you want to make sure to check that out. And don't forget to check out all the other wonderful shows, even if they're not streaming yet or they haven't made the switch to Twitch. Go ahead and go to rivalcastmedia.com where you can check out the podcast versions of all the shows that we've done all the way up till now. With ours, we especially made mention of episode 67, which is my personal favorite that we've done in a very long time, where we did the final advertisements for the Lord of Terror election, which featured Elmo and the Sesame Street Party, Arachnos and the Ectoplasmic Party, and Cthulhu of the Elder Party. Cthulhu won, so Cthulhu didn't make an appearance tonight. He's come the last 3 weeks to go ahead and join us in IRC. He didn't show up this week.
He's probably sleeping.
Yeah, but he usually has one of his little surrogate guys come in at least for him for a little while. He's the reigning Lord of Terror. He has to make an appearance. He has to play good on it. We went and played his advertisements. He owes us one. We also have some concession speeches that are supposedly coming. We're still waiting on Elmo's final approval on the one that he's done. And Arachnos, I think he's been busy with the Spidey Summit, so we're going to have some information on that hopefully next week. The other shows to check out, don't forget, I kind of mentioned some of them already. There's Farfield, which stars Sayomara, Scott, and Porkchop. Excellent show. You've also got the Doctor Who Livecast, which features, recently it's been Sayomara and a couple guest hosts. Myself did this past week along with Non-Mail. I will also be doing it again this week with Non-Mail as well of the Eviscerated show. Little Rex is usually his co-host. I think he's going to be coming back soon. I don't know for certain when.
I don't know why you're asking me.
Well, you're on the website as much as I am. I figured you would have seen some kind of post because I could have sworn he made one. So hopefully Little Rex will return soon. You got the Rivalcast with Highlander and Varyar, which I mentioned already. Emperor's Court. I'm not sure who he's going to be bringing back with. And then you also got the WoW Uncensored. That's D2D, Valentine, and Bubba Caleb. They've already made the switch. I'm glad they're back. It's good to have them back after their little hiatus. I believe Sheep Moon with D2D is going to be moving over very soon as well. And I think that's about it.
No, it isn't.
What am I missing,
You're
Baroness?
missing a lot of stuff.
Go ahead, jump in.
Yeah,
what am I missing?
stop talking over me, and I will. That's right.
Go ahead.
So anyway,
I give you permission.
Anyway, for current show times, show announcements.
What? Continue. I'm not saying anything.
For current show times, show announcements, articles, everything, make sure that you're going to our main site at rivalcastmedia.com. We've got a lot of great content on there. We've made a much better effort of posting more, new content on a regular basis. I know there are a couple of new articles that are supposed to be coming out this week, so be on the lookout for those. Also, if you're on the Twitter, follow us at Rivalcast Media. You can find me at Baroness Vigosu. He is at Ghost in the Cast. A lot of the other shows are on there as well. If you're following Rivalcast Media, you can just go and click on the different show host names. Most of us are on there at this point. I like it just because the back and forth that we've been having over the last few weeks is just freaking awesome.
It's been fun. It really has.
And for those of you who are more the Facebooky types, we actually have updates on our Facebook page now. Most of us forgot that we even had a Facebook page, so I took over last week. We have a lot more posts going up, show announcements. Again, keep informed, share it with your friends, help us grow, because we like having you guys here, and we always like having new friends in the sandbox. So
absolutely,
spread the word. But again, rivalcastmedia.com, tons of new stuff, and I'm really looking forward to the stuff that we have coming up for 2015.
We have put a lot of effort into revamping a lot of things that we're doing on the network, especially this show. I mean, you and I have really been spending a lot of time putting our heads together, finding out what we want to do. Now that we have the ability to do a video cast. And this was just to see how things were going to run. Some things are going to be changing as we go along here, and I think you guys are really going to like what we have planned. Don't forget to also check out the Amazon.
Hold on.
What's up?
On.
What up?
Hacks, would you shut up long enough for me to tell you? Hacks did confirm the first article format, Hacks Perspective, launches tomorrow. So I wasn't sure if he was quite done with that. My next article launches on Wednesday as well, so be on the lookout.
And for those of you that really want to see some more Let's Plays or kind of have some fun with Bat Orc and Meat Rod, don't forget to check out the Baron Busts Let's Play that we're going to be doing this Thursday at 10 p.m. We're going to continue Alien Isolation. I know a bunch of other guys in the network have been doing some streams as well. I'm not sure what their schedule is yet. I think we're still fine-tuning that. But definitely keep checking back to the stream because we're going to be hopefully having things going every single day of the week. Whether it's a stream, whether it's a show like this one, we're always going to have different content going. And if you're not necessarily a fan of horror, but you're a big fan of World of Warcraft, or a big fan of just talking about politics, or a big fan of just video gaming news in general, we have a lot of different shows that are going to cater to a lot of different topics. Keep checking this back. There's always something entertaining to be found. Don't forget, if you want to help out the show and help out the entire network and everything else,
11 days till Christmas.
the Amazon widget on rivalcastmedia.com. The Amazon widget, here's how you use it. It's very easy. It won't cost you a thing.
You just click on it.
You just click on it. And all you do is, if you're going to buy something from Amazon.com, you search for it through the widget on the Rivalcast Media website, and Amazon's going to go ahead and give us a little bit of advertising revenue from that. It's one of the few ways we have to generate income to keep this thing going. These shows, they don't run themselves. So if you're going to be shopping, you're going to be doing some Christmas shopping or some holiday shopping, I prefer Christmas, go ahead and definitely use the Amazon widget. Could be Hanukkah.
Hanukkah's still, yeah.
But I'm just going to say Christmas because I'm sick and tired of people shoving that holidays crap down my throat.
I celebrate all the holidays, and I'm very excited that next weekend happens to be solstice.
I celebrate
We're going to
beer.
be broadcasting on solstice. Now, do you remember what happened on solstice last year?
No.
No, of course you don't. Do you remember why?
Was I drunk?
We were we celebrate solstice in the true meaning.
Oh, lovely. Don't forget to also check out one other thing. There's one other excellent show that's been streaming that I almost forgot to mention. I can't believe I almost forgot. But Edge, one of
mentioned him a few times.
one of the biggest contributors that we have backstage, along with Biomed and Lead Hacksher, who help run all the technical stuff of this network. Edge has also been doing teaching lessons with Blender, which is a freeware program. You can download it for free that does video editing. They do design, all sorts of modeling stuff. And he's been doing a fantastic teaching series based on that he's been trying to air, if not every Saturday, at least every other Saturday. Check those out in our Twitch channel. They are very interesting. I've learned a lot, especially on the video stuff. Because we do have some video projects that we've already been working on. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, we did a live paranormal investigation called Orbfest. We're working on putting that together. It's now in the editing stages currently. So it's a very great series. Definitely check that out. And I think that's about it. I think we've gone on long enough. So we're going to go ahead and head out like a fetus now. Thank you again, everybody, for coming out and for watching, making this show and this network as successful as it is. For those of you that are new, like Baroness said, welcome to the sandbox. I'm Baron Von Gosu. She's the Baroness. And remember, if anybody asks if you're a god, say yes.